We have
5:05. Thanks everybody for coming out for this special meeting. More or less what I'm going to do, this went out late, but I'm more or less going to read this first page in terms of the objectives, the meeting process, and the ground rules as suggested to us by both Liz and Karen. So we've been tasked with providing advice on how to move the East Village expansion project forward at a minimum cost to the town. We have the opportunity to apply for significant funds to meet the charge of the East Village expansion and the goals of the town. And the committee is asked for recommendations on the grant application in advance of the public hearing on September 25th. We're going to review the elements of the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Relief Grant as relates to the East Village expansion. Karen's going to lead us through that. At some point, we're going to want to check in with each member and ask if you had a vote right now, whether you support this grant application. We're going to review each element one by one. There's an estimated time listed on all these. Grant writer, Karen Hatcher, grants administrator that need to be answered to provide clarity prior to voting on a recommendation to the select board to go forward with the grant application. We're going to do a straw poll on all those elements, except for the final vote on whether or not we're going to recommend that the select board go forward. The ground rules, each aspect of the grant application will be presented with an explanation as to what it is, why it's being included, how it meets both the goals of the grant and that of the town. The full written grant application is still in process and it's not going to be presented tonight. However, the most current and up-to-date information will be shared. Questions will be asked on the topic at hand by one committee member at a time, Liz and Karen, and/or members of the committee will respond as completely as possible. Follow-up questions are permitted, and to ensure that the questioner understands the answer. After we've reviewed each section of the grant, when the discussion is complete, Karen will call us and ask me to do a straw poll. We decided to limit the public comment at this meeting because there is so much work in front of us. At the end of the meeting, if we're all still breathing, we can have, I would say, 10 minutes of public comment. And I would remind folks that there is that public comment is invited and specifically belongs at the hearing on the 25th. With that, Karen, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Don. So what I'm going to do is just review with you what is within the grant application, the elements, and then we'll post a question to the group. If you had to vote on this tonight, where would you be and what considerations do you have going in? So that what Liz and I are trying to do is make sure we're answering all of those questions tonight so that you have a good, clear path to being able to recommend. All right. So the elements that we're going to review tonight are, the first one is the matching funds for the emergency watershed protection. We'll go into detail when we get there, but that is the match for the grant that we're getting from the National Conservation Resource.
Just confirming that folks online can hear okay?
You guys hear okay?
So I'm going to express a concern about online. Josh Pitts appears to be on there, but yet I just saw him walking down the street. So I don't know if you want to ask. Okay, there we go.
Hey, everybody.
We answered that one pretty well, didn't we?
Okay. He may be on his phone.
I always got the headphones on, ready to meet anytime. But I'm going to go get on my other meeting here. So have a good one.
Josh? That's okay. All right, very good. We go on. So that's item A, the matching funds. Item 2, not including the land acquisition cost in the grant. Item, so that's B. Item C, funding the infrastructure for the East Village expansion with grant funds. Item D, sub-granting to Down Street Housing and Community Development funds for their shared equity program. And single-family houses, we'll get into that. Item E, including an option agreement for Habitat Humanity for a grant of 5/4 acre lots on the property. So we'll get into that. That's E. F is to include funds to hire professional project management services for the duration of the project. G, number of lots and lot sales plan description. We will get into that in detail. Those are the items that will be just
the budget.
Oh, the budget is within. Thank you, Liz. We will do a deep dive on the budget tonight as well. Thank you, Liz, for putting all that together. So the question before the group at this point, a check-in question, just to get the temperature of the room and to see, so we can identify what we need to make sure we give you. If you had to vote right now, whether to support this grant application, could you? If not, what assurance are you looking for tonight? That's your question. So each
Should we
take a
start
minute.
at this end of the table and go down?
We'll make notes.
Having been involved in the grants committee, I feel like I've had a good chance to ask all of my questions. I feel very satisfied and I would support this application.
Liz?
I feel like it's a trick question, but I'm not comfortable going forward, so no.
And what assurances would you need?
I think my concerns are still about the development of actual housing when we're not actually creating, like it's out of our control, like we're selling the lots. We're relying on somebody independent to do what they're supposed to do, which I work with a large grant, and I work with professionals to do the work that I'm asking for them to do, paying them, and I'm still having a hard time them following through on the thing. So I know what human nature is, and that's what I don't like to bank money on. So.
Thank you.
I'm a yes vote.
Donnie, you're a yes.
I
Victor?
can't vote yes tonight, I'm sorry. First of all, I feel I can't do my due diligence to the select board unless I see the proposed grant that's going to be going in front of the public hearing for the town. I need full clarification from the people administering the grant as to what does it mean to them if we keep in the 40 lots and 40 units, what is their expectation? Is their expectation that all houses must be built and completed by what date? Because there's been conversation about whether that is 5 years or 6 years. I need that confirmation. I need to know that Down Street and Habitat, if we take, for example, 2 years for the infrastructure, how much time do they need to build their houses? So that we even know what the risks there are if they can't make those deadlines.
Yeah.
Will all homes that have to be built on the lot have to meet HUD requirements as part of the grant?
Okay.
Confirmation, once again, are we talking 5 years or are we talking 6 years? I want to know whether or not the town can meet, well, two things, I guess. Can we, A, meet all our financial responsibilities that are required of the grant for tracking and everything? I want to know, with Down Street, now that we're talking about sub-recipients, according to the rules that I read, and this, I wouldn't want confirmation on this, we are now the overseers of them. I want to ensure that they are familiar, which I think they are, but I need confirmation with all the financial controls and performance measurements that are needed by HUD grants. I want to ensure that the town is not at a risk for the financial controls and performance that is integrated between us and them because of the sub-recipient controls that are required.
Okay.
I need clarification on the whole trailer lot piece. We're moving up to 137K. I need to understand who owns the trailer? Are we paying for the lot of that trailer or not? Because I believe we had 100K that we said we were saving to pump the water up, and this would take away that savings. I need a clear understanding from a recipient role, what downstreet's responsibility and what our oversight responsibilities are. I need a clear understanding on downstreet and our subsidizing them. I need to understand, are we receiving any of that money back to apply to the loan, or are we just subsidizing them completely? I need to understand that the equity, is going to the owner. I'm assuming that if they sell the properties, they get our equity. I think I've already mentioned this. I want to know all financial requirements, can be administered after the project is closed. Because right now we have project manager responsibilities in there for 5 years. However, I believe the HUD grant says there are additional responsibilities and reporting that are required after that. I don't know if we know what the impact of it, and I would be looking for some information regarding that, because right now we have a set amount in there for roles for a number of years, and I think that's important to know that. I mean, I could go on.
No, we got just, if there isn't something you've pointed to yet,
Okay.
um,
Act 250, we don't have our
Thank you.
certificate for that. That's huge. And if we don't have it, then I'm not comfortable saying yes to this grant. That's a whole load of cost. I want to know what the costs are for Act 250 and the incorporation into the budget and what that means.
thank you.
And I can go on if you want me to.
We're gonna have a lot more discussion.
Okay,
You
I
have
just
a-
let me put it this way. The answer is no. I can't support it. How's that?
Okay, thank you, John.
I would say at this time, no. She brought up a lot of points I hadn't even thought about, but mostly because of the scope of the project. 40 houses is too much on that little of land. It's simple as that. I don't think anybody I've talked to is completely against the project. Everyone is against the scope that I've talked to.
Thank you, John. Eli?
I don't think I could vote yes right now, but I'd like to be able to. I would love to learn a lot tonight. I would love to know about the grants administrator hiring process. I would love to hear about that.
The project manager?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry,
Thank you.
not administrator. And I think that what I want from our group, I don't think this is you necessarily, but I want to know, not by the end of tonight, but like cost per unit, and like understanding why it's so high right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
Okay, thank you. Kirsty?
I would also be a no. And I think my biggest hesitation right now is I could not say yes to something I haven't seen any draft of before tonight. In addition to that, I worry about the scope of the project. I worry that we're not meeting the charges that the select board initially provided this group. Particularly housing flooding impacted households. I don't think we're meeting that requirement or that ask in a timely manner, unfortunately. I think the goals already mentioned, it all went in my brain and onto my computer, so I don't want to repeat things. And I think I don't have a clear understanding of how this is actually affordable for folks. And I think my other biggest personal concern, not in regards to steering the select board, I don't want there to be financial consequences that are maybe unintended or unforeseen that put me in a position where I can't afford my home anymore because of tax increases. And that's, I think, that's it for now.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a hesitant, yes, based on some of the. Based on some of the sort of realities of the situation, I'm a guess because. I don't think it's going to hurt us to try and go for this grant. And because. Everything is in flux and I'm okay with working in that space at the moment. I don't think we'll accomplish anything by getting all the answers done before we act. I have a lot of detail that I would like to see. But you know, our charge is to develop a financially feasible plan. To get to the select board, and in my analysis or reanalysis of some of these financials after the most recent estimate, which has doubled. For the infrastructure cost and some subsidization of the housing units. I don't see any other funding mechanism working, and likely we would have to do a mixture of funding mechanisms, including this grant, we got a full amount, and CHIP. So with those two pots of money on the table, I do still see that it's a feasible thing. And with the fact that it's mostly infrastructure that we're funding, like that cost isn't gonna change if we have 10 houses or if we have 40. The scope is not going to change. So if the scope is our infrastructure and that's our cost, that's our scope and that's what we're applying for. So I would say yes.
Okay, thank you. Lauren?
I'm a yes, and I think it's largely because I've been working so closely with Karen and the grants team on a lot of these specifics that people have brought up. I feel pretty well informed about some of these things, and I just think that the availability of $10 million to the town is an opportunity that we are not going to see again. And I just feel very strongly about providing housing for people.
Thank you, Kim?
I'm also yes, largely based on the benefits outweighing the risks that I see at this point, but also that the yes is a yes to applying, not a yes to accepting, and that there's a big gap between those things. That said, there's a lot of detail that I'm interested in learning, including where there is wiggle room in terms of different ways in which we might meet the affordability requirements or prove that, opportunities to extend timelines if it came to that. And I'm looking forward to hearing that and really appreciate the detailed questions other people put together.
Great. I didn't miss anybody. Right. Thank you all for that. I know we did put you on the spot, but I think, you know, it's good to hear what's in your brains, because those of us that have been in the middle of it, we've got information and you don't, you know, and the timeline that we've been kind of, I don't want to say forced into, but the timeline that was created for this grant was 6 weeks from the time of hearing and applying for pre-app to where we are. And that's a very compressed period of time to try and pull a $10 million application together. It's very complicated. So, so appreciate all of the where you are, because it makes sense that you would be there. So hopefully by the end of tonight, there'll be an increased level of comfort, I want to say, with the information that you've been given, and that maybe you have fewer questions leaving tonight than you came in with. And that's our intention.
Yeah, I just like to underline, I know this is obvious, that the question is not should we accept the grant, but should we make the application? I think that's a real distinction. There may be, if and when we get this grant and know how much money is or is not there, there are all kinds of other decisions to be made at that point. And that's when the information has to be there. But this question is, should we apply for the money?
Correct.
And there's negotiations that take place
Yes, many.
during that process.
Yes, there, absolutely.
Well, that is true, Donnie, and I agree. However, I also, one of the concerns, and it's also my concern that I didn't speak of, I gave one concern of many, but I think between everybody, most of them were hit, or if not all. But I would say though, what the scope is an issue, because we're basing this grant on this particular scope, and I know, Walker, your point being the infrastructure is the cost, no matter if it's one house or 10 houses. Yes, unless we reduce the road, move it closer to utility, like there are things that you could do to decrease the cost of the infrastructure if we weren't locked in to a certain amount of units that we're, saying we're gonna do. So that's where I get into the gray with, yes, this is just to apply and not to accept, but we're applying on a very specific design.
For sure. So why don't we dive in to some of the pieces that might be a little bit easier to say, yeah, that makes sense. If we were to say yes to moving the grant forward, those pieces are easier to say, yes, that makes sense. Those should be part of it. Okay, because I think there are those in this,
Yeah.
right? And the first one being the matching grant for the EWP, for the emergency watershed protections. But what I will tell you tonight is this afternoon, I got a revised grant agreement from the National Resource Council. And instead of 250,000, it's now a $304,000 match. So that number will change, but it's still the same program. But so the first piece is, and it is, as we explained last time, it's to repair the erosion of the bank along the Martin Meadow from the Friends Meeting House to the Plainfield Health Center. And without a repair, that is only going to degrade and will be a danger to that neighborhood. So does anybody have questions about including that in the grant?
Did Rick join us, actually?
Did Rick? Rick, are you on?
He's fine.
Yes, I am.
Oh, good. Hey, Rick.
And I can
Excellent.
stay for about 5 or 10 minutes probably, but not long.
All right, so we missed you in the first round, Rick. So the question was, are you given at the beginning of this meeting tonight, if you had to vote right now whether to support this grant application, could you? And if not, what are your considerations or what assurance do you need?
I'm an absolutely yes to support the grant. And I think that the important thing is that it allows us to continue to move forward with this process. I think there may be some other concerns that people will have along the way, but for right now, yeah, I absolutely support it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. So any questions on the match for the EWP?
I have one.
Please.
So it's a match fund. Where's the other piece of funding coming from?
It's from the money comes from
USDA.
the USDA.
Okay, yeah. So this is not something the town is spending.
No, no, there's, the project is over, it's $1,062,917.62. 25% of that is almost $304,000. So that we would be applying for a match to this federal money, which is allowable within the grant under the infrastructure, under the hazard mitigation category, a lot of money.
And do you see that amount that what you just quoted changing in any way?
No, this was the, well, it's a contract that we signed with USDA. And this is an increase from the original estimate. So, and I just got that today for the select board to sign. So that no money has been spent nor encumbered at this point. It's just an agreement until all the engineering is done.
So I like to repeat what I've heard, so, because my brain doesn't always process everything. So the grant that we're applying for is through the USDA, which requires a 25% match, which will be provided by the funds in this grant.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And we've received that other grant though.
The agreement is to be signed, but it's been allocated. So it's awarded. It's awarded.
Yeah.
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 So there's no reason they can take back that
Correct.
award, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure.
But I don't have a crystal ball.
Well, yeah.
You know the answer to that, Vicky. That would be great, but I don't. Yeah, given what we know today, the money is there. It's been awarded.
Yeah.
We just need the match.
So,
Yeah.
We would add this to DR. Right.
We would.
Right.
Right. So any other questions?
just, I'm sorry, just if for some reason they did choose to take the money away from us and we had applied for this 25% match in the grant, are we obligated now that when we put our application in to use, I mean, do we refund that back?
We would tell Department of Housing and Community Affairs that the USDA grant money went away. And therefore.
They would
match is
recapture it?
not-
We
We need it.
wouldn't, yeah, we wouldn't.
It
There
would
would be
be
a
part
need
of
for the
it.
match.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's not a problem. Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Okay, good. Can we kind of straw poll on this? Paul, Donnie?
Yeah, I think we should do it as a roll call. Why don't we do it the same way? Let's start at this end.
I say yes.
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 Yeah.
Great.
Wait, we got people online.
Oh, Lauren,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
all right, that's great. We'll go there. We'll take that. All right, item B, not including land acquisition costs in the grant. There's been discussion about the pros and cons of using grant funding for the acquisition of land in the East Village project. The reasons to not include the land acquisition in the grant include using HUD funds to buy the land creates regulatory restrictions on all parcels, not just the low to mod income parcels. The town would not be able to keep 50% of the proceeds from the sales. The other 50% would require a revolving loan fund design, which was a capacity challenge to pull together, given the grant deadline. The HUD building regulations would likely flow through to all homes built with Davis-Bacon, you know about this, wage requirements and other restrictions, and sweat equity would be challenging. So there's all kinds of rules. It would leave the town short of funding to complete the infrastructure and other improvements because we'd only get half. We'd have to return half, so we'd only get half on to buy the land. A loan on the plus side, the loan gives the town more flexibility on what to do with the land sales proceeds. The Vermont Community Foundation has expressed interest in providing an unconventional loan for land acquisition at a very low rate without traditional terms and conditions, otherwise called a philanthropic loan or program-related investment. The state has discouraged projects that generate program income, and an application that includes program income would not be looked upon favorably. So that's kind of the case. Questions?
Yeah. So taking scenario A, where it's kept into the grant, do we have to build on the 40 lots, all homes at HUD requirements as completion for the project on the proposed application we're submitting it?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce myself.
Sorry,
So-
Liz, I skipped right over.
It's okay.
And we forgot to introduce you.
Yeah.
So
So,
we're even on that one.
I'm Liz Curry, and I've been consulting in housing and community development for five and a half years. And I got my start in housing in Burlington. I was carpenter, housing rehab specialist, and got involved in the community land trust movement, worked developing, sadly, homeless shelters in the 80s when we first needed them. And thought we would build our way out of that problem. I worked for, in Northwest, there was a nonprofit housing development organization, much like down the street, that eventually became Champlain Housing Trust. So I worked there for about 15 years and helped create the NeighborWorks homeownership centers and managed a philanthropic campaign for 5 years to launch those. And then I worked for Green Mountain Transit, managing federal grants and capital projects. Then I worked at BEIC for energy efficiency and low income and multifamily markets. So that's my background. And in consulting, I work with mobile home co-ops doing water and wastewater infrastructure redevelopment and all kinds of electrical, ravines, stormwater, you name it. And also worked with nonprofit housing organizations and municipalities on redeveloping historic properties and other kinds of housing. So my role is really to bring all the funding together for a project. And then help groups like yours understand the process. And bring everyone along with your team of technical experts and community members. So that, you know, the project moves forward and successfully. And for clients, I do all the grant compliance and administration, project management, and then when construction contracts get signed, I have nothing to do with them. And I usually bring in a partner who works as a construction manager, owner's rep, and allow them to do all that. So that's my background. I was asked to help you with your grant application. The community development program is something I've been working with for 30 years. And I have a lot of answers to your questions. So I forget what this question was, but I can answer it now.
So it has to do with if we use the grant funds to buy the land,
Yeah,
do we?
Yeah.
We have to meet all
Yeah.
the HUD requirements.
yeah, and let me just clarify what HUD requires when you use their grant to buy land and then you're telling them you're gonna build a house. HUD does not get involved in housing codes. It's not like USDA. USDA used to give grants for building a home and tell you exactly what you had to build. They give you the plans and they'd manage the construction. That's not HUD. Typically, HUD is an urban grant program. It's just that rural states get some of it, but the rules are like really different. So HUD's not interested in what you build. They're interested in paying Davis-Bacon wages, which are listed actually by the government, and you have to pay carpenters a certain amount, heavy machinery a certain amount, paving a certain amount. You have to go to their schedule of wages and tell your contractor they have to pay those. That's no problem in Vermont because construction pays high wages in Vermont because of the labor shortage. So that's never a problem. So Davis-Bacon for sure. There's another regulation called Section 3, HUD Section 3. We like to call HUD regulations by their sections, which is really weird, but that's what happens with HUD. Section 3 really reflects the fact that HUD is an urban program. There are job training programs like Youth Build, which we have in Vermont, but in cities, they're really big and they train youth and young adults to really work in construction and they get involved with the unions and they actually get hired. Section 3 requires the construction companies on your project to document what their workers earn. And if they're going to hire someone, they have to advertise their jobs in all of the HUD subsidized housing. And they have to go to Youth Build and they have to find like wherever HUD subsidies are, they got to advertise their jobs there. So I usually help contractors with that because it's first, it's ridiculous. Second, it's hard to get your back room as a construction company to understand like where to reach out. So we go to the state housing authority, we go to all the land trusts, we go to the youth builds, wherever HUD subsidies are. So it's just a really annoying paperwork exercise that on a policy level matters. Like it would be great if Youth Build got hired to build housing, but in practical terms, it's rarely successful in a rural state. So that's Section 3. The other one, we don't have Build America, Buy America on disaster recovery. So that's the good news. Those are the two biggies that are affect like who's building on site. So if the HUD grant were used for land acquisition, the staff have said, yes, the regulations would flow through and it would really hamper, you know, the way people build and what they build.
You could not build yourself.
You know, I'm not going to say you can't, but I'm going to say that the staff would be really unhappy to try and have to figure that out. It would be really
The
complicated.
staff at
And community development, yeah.
the state.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Could you sweat equity?
Oh, could
Sweat
you-
equity, Habitat can do it because it's a sanctioned program, you know. But not individuals. I don't really see a path for this.
So, I might not word this one, but do you feel, we have certain roles that we are potentially going to be hiring to help us, project manager, clerk of works, whatever, et cetera. Do you feel that we have a good opportunity of hiring somebody that could navigate through all this schedule, wages and things like that? Are there experts out there that the town could hire to do this so it would not become a problem or not?
You mean, to use the grant for land and have to do that?
Yes.
I don't think you could pay someone enough money to do that. I really don't. I mean, every individual to track them down, they're gonna make a mistake. You're gonna be out of compliance.
Right.
You have to document that. So no, I don't think you could find someone who might say, I think they would do that.
Yeah.
Christy had her hand up too.
Yeah, I had two questions. The first one, I understand that for some folks it would be less desirable to have more regulations around self-build. That makes sense. But otherwise, I don't understand why hiring folks in subsidized housing and youth build would not be seen as an advantage. And then my second question was, if you could explain the Build America, Buy America piece. Because I thought that was in our budget, but I understand.
It is in our budget.
Not required.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to address the first question, it does sound like an advantage at a policy level. And so the policy sounds really good.
Yeah.
But when you go to youth build and say, you know, we need this project to stay on track. You know, can you show up and build this, you know, room or wall or whatever? Or like you're hiring someone to be a carpenter. So if you say to youth build, can you send me a carpenter to work on this job? The chance of them having someone who's available when you need them, because they have to graduate from the program, is just that, you know, those stars aligning is very unlikely.
Okay, so it's about timing, not who we're hiring, or.
No, it's nothing to do with the graduate. I mean, if they were graduating like in the cities, they graduate hundreds of people a year from youth build that go work in
Yeah.
construction. Absolutely. That work functions as it's intended in Boston, you know?
Thank you, that makes sense.
Yeah. And then the BABA, it is in the budget and I would recommend keeping it in the budget because if you don't get this grant and there's another grant that comes along that does require BABA, you'll have already accounted for it.
What do you mean by that? I mean, I get you mean that it's in the grant, but what do you mean that, where's, you say
It's in
you've
the
already
budget.
accounted for it, so I don't
It's in the
understand.
So the budget has already kind of assumed
Right,
that you might face BABA requirements. So the
Right.
grant, like, we could talk about the budget later, but the whole grant game is to make sure you have enough money because you're not going to be
right.
doing construction for a year. So you have all this inflationary costs. So keeping it in the budget is a good practice. Right.
Anyway,
Would owners of the land have to build to HUD requirements in perpetuity? What's the?
No, I mean, this question right now is, if you used the grant to buy the land, then HUD, there would have to be Davis-Bacon and Section 3 compliance. HUD doesn't say anything about the house itself, except it does have to be on at least a slab.
It can be a trailer.
But like our project wasn't planning on building houses, so I'm just not sure I understand where like that cuts off, right?
Oh, so they are willing to make a distinction between using the grant for infrastructure in support of housing is how they put it,
Totally.
in support of housing. And so you tell them, we're using the grant to build the infrastructure. That's different than telling them we're using the grant to buy the land.
So
Yes.
is it a fair distinction to say if we use the grant to buy the money, to buy the land, it comes with a lot of requirements. If we don't use the grant to buy the money, none of those requirements apply to the individuals building the housing. And
Right.
that's why the recommendation is that we should not use the grant to buy the money, because there are essentially too many strings. To buy- Sorry, thank you. One of us will say it right one of these times.
yeah, and the flexibility that you get if you're using other money non-grant money to buy the land, you have a lot more flexibility with what you do with that revenue. What the town can do with that revenue. Lauren had her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I understood this correctly, and that is that I believe that the grants committee is recommending that we not use the grant for land acquisition because the town will have more flexibility on what to do with the money from the land sales, and the grant will not be looked upon as favorably. Is that correct?
That is correct, and the feedback that we have gotten from the select board is that they are also leaning in that direction because they have need for money in the town budget, and they're looking at how do we make the most of what revenue gets generated. So if you take the loan and you pay the loan off and you still have hundreds of thousands of dollars from land sales, that's money that can be used to benefit the town in many ways. And I
Right.
know that the board has spoken to wanting to have that.
Yeah. So I heard Vicky ask about HUD requirements, but those requirements would only apply if we use the grant money for land acquisition. And we are recommending that we not do that, but that we use the
Correct.
land.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Can you help me better understand that? When we're talking about adding to the budget for the town,
Revenue?
the revenue.
Yeah.
So you're saying that this project is being looked at as a way to increase the town's revenue for things outside of this project?
Yes, yes.
Outside of the revolving loan fund?
A revolving loan fund
That's it.
may or may not become part of the plan as we go, right? The board has to decide, okay, if we don't, when we're gonna have a discussion about how many lots and what we sell, how many have to be low and moderate income, and then how many can be sold at market rate or something like that. So let us just say that the town generated for this discussion, that they sold 12 lots that were at $100,000 each, 1.2 million. So outside of the low and mod, right? Let's just say all of that was covered by the grant. We didn't need money for that, but then we sold 12 lots, $100,000 each, 1.2 million. You took out a loan for 600,000, you pay your loan back, you still have 600,000.
And
Right.
500 with interest, let's say.
But yeah, a little bit
that-
less with interest, yes?
That makes sense. I did
Yeah.
not realize that this project is being used to generate revenue for the town.
It could be.
It could-
Well, what you've been charged with is revenue neutral or no minimum cost to the town, right? If you can also generate income to help the town with lots of other needs, because we all know that we had lots of damage in the town that will require some matches, that will require some other funding. So it's a way that there can be a kind of a win and a win and a win. If we get all the funding in the grant and you can use that grant money to underwrite, we'll get there, but underwrite down street, you know, and be able to provide for LMI lots, then you can generate. You seem to have a problem with this, but Kirsty, tell me what it is. It seems philosophical.
Well, I'm volunteering my time because I want to improve the lives of my neighbors. I'm not volunteering time to make money for the town, which I understand could in turn improve the lives of my neighbors, but that feels like it was very misleading.
But I heard you say earlier that you're worried about your taxes going up and being priced out, right? So if the income, the revenue can be used to offset some of the town services and the things that need money for that would normally raise your taxes,
Mhm.
right? It benefits you, it benefits your neighbors, it benefits all of us because we're bringing more money into the town to be able to do all those things. If we don't bring the money in, the only place we can get that money is to tax the people who live here. Yes or no? I mean, because that's what I think as somebody who pays taxes. It's either that we can bring revenue somehow.
Goddard does not contribute. The plan that happens there will not contribute to Plainfield.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's not,
I just-
it's not typical of a developer to contribute money to a town other than
Right.
if
I
you
guess-
have impact fees.
I have the time when I feel like I've been misled, and this is the first time I'm hearing this.
So
and feel
what
like
can I
that's-
help just please fill in a little bit? The original idea was to sell the land and create a revolving loan fund.
That's, yeah.
Okay, so a couple of things may have gotten conflated. The original idea was to use the grant to buy the land
Mhm.
and do the infrastructure. Then we learned from the staff that
At
buying
state, at the state.
that using the grant to buy land would be a problem. And so that's when the idea came up to use this philanthropic loan from the Vermont Community Foundation instead. And so there wouldn't be any issue with creating a revolving loan fund, right? So that's pretty much where things are. Is the question to, you
No,
know,
it makes
and
sense. I
so
feel like I'm
the-
not-
so the revolving loan fund is still a concept that hasn't been
So
really.
I'm saying that I was not volunteering for this committee so that I could generate revenue for the town. If I'm working for the town to increase revenue, I want to be paid. So it just is. It's a little frustrating to find that out this late.
Was the revolving loan fund always in the conversation, or is that
Yes,
new?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so the
That's all.
revolving loan fund it's still the same,
She's
but it
saying-
is, that's what
It's,
this
yeah,
is.
there's another issue.
She's saying the goal, that one of the goals that just kind of came out was to create revenue for the state. There have been discussions about the
No,
revolving.
for the town.
I mean, for the town,
the
sorry, you're
town.
right, correct, thank you.
Yeah.
But there, I mean, there has been discussions about the revolving loan, and
Yeah.
potential uses for that, but there has not been words about using
So-
the revenue. I think it's just, you
Yes,
know,
so what
just
I
FYI.
say about it is, there is a way to do it where you're not generating revenue for the town and everything could be priced down, right? But this is a conversation for the select board, this is not what I'm saying or what I'm coming up with. It's what the board is saying. That they're looking at the whole picture of what the recovery effort is gonna look like here. And what kind of money we're gonna need on top of what maybe we get from FEMA, and who knows if that disappears too, right? But it's like, we
Right.
have roads that aren't finished, we have all kinds of, right? So I would say, as a volunteer, also, I'd like to get paid too from, it's like all of us. The board is gonna look at what's the best scenario for the whole town. And I would say to you, Kirsty, if you're having this issue, that should be a conversation that you have with the board.
So let me ask you a little
Right.
bit, just to
Yeah.
key in on that a little bit more. So if we looked at it and we said, okay, they want to create more revenue, but we could also look at it as if our marketing plan was such, and we priced those other lots higher, because we thought we were gonna get more money for them, that maybe we wouldn't need as many more lots because we were bringing in this additional revenue.
Potentially, yeah,
Yeah,
So that's,
right,
am I right? Okay.
that's right.
and that's potentially like.
Yeah, ultimately, it's the numbers have to work, right? And and depending on what we end up with. Yeah, who's hand, Lauren?
Yeah, I'd just like to make the point that all along, Kirsty, I think that the point of this project, one of the points is to increase tax revenue for the town. And we potentially are losing taxpayers. And as we know, the population of Plainfield has remained pretty static for a number of years. So if we lose taxpayers, we won't have as much tax revenue, and the remaining people will have to pay more. And I think that the sign of a vital and robust community is having enough tax base to be able to serve the people that are there. And so I don't see it as looking at as us being kind of like, trying to make a profit for the town. I think it's volunteering to try to help keep the town as vital and with as high a tax base as possible.
So I'd like to just throw in there a little bit. We say that it wasn't a focus to make a profit for the town. But let me just say something, and is that public comment that we've heard, they're not worried about the project in favor of it for the affordable housing, but they are worried about the lot, and they feel that it would go through quicker perhaps if there was less members or units. And isn't this a way? This seems to me like this is an interesting way to kind of get a balance between what we're hearing from the community and kind of how we could approach this. I find that very interesting. Just thinking
The
that,
comment. Okay,
yeah,
got it. That's-
sorry.
Not a question.
No, just a comment, just a
Got
thought.
it, got it, got it. All right, so
Sure.
there's a lot to unpack there. So any other comments or questions on item B?
Would you clarify what we're, I need,
Yeah.
I need to
So,
be clarified
yes.
what the question is
Yes.
before we go through the vote.
Let's vote. Would recommend that we should not include the acquisition of the land in the grant application.
Okay. All right,
Yes.
Can I just ask a clarification on that? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
You're not putting a specific amount of money to your request for what you're asking us to vote on, because if you are, that could change and okay,
There's no money. It's just whether.
whether you'd
this
agree or
group
not.
believes
Got
we
it,
should or
okay.
should not. Yeah.
So I vote yes, not to include the land acquisition.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm uncertain, I just want,
Okay, uncertain, all right.
I have another question, just to keep rolling things back, keep taking steps backwards. Right, so we would, if we did include the land acquisition, right? We would get granted this money, and we'd have the money, we would buy the land, we would build on the land with all of the rules. And then if we sold the land to an individual, that individual would then be monitored by the government and required to build their house at a certain standard. And then after, if they built a second house on that land, they would still be required to build it to HUD standards? Or after we sell, are we out of responsibility and they can build their house how they want? Or are we building the infrastructure to HUD standards? Do you see my question? I don't know where the cutoff is, where they stop paying attention and say, like, do what you want.
The infrastructure does have to be built to HUD standards. And then that includes to the curb stop where individual lot lines will be drawn with warranty deeds.
Yeah,
So where you put your wastewater pipe meets the town wastewater,
yeah,
the town has to be to HUD regulations. This person doesn't have to meet HUD regulations.
got it. So the houses that would be built wouldn't have to be to HUD regulations?
If you don't use the grant for buying the land.
No, what about if you?
If you do use the grant for buying the land, then this person and the town would all have to meet HUD regulations.
Right, so if I bought a piece of land and I wanted to build a house, I would have to do it probably more expensive, right? Following all these rules. Yeah, right, totally.
You'd have to use a contractor
And
who's
then-
willing to do Davis Bacon and willing to
Right.
do section 3.
Totally, and then 3 years later, I'm done building my house.
Yep.
Quote unquote. And I wanna build an ADU.
Yeah,
Do I still have to hire someone?
No.
No. Where's the line?
Just
It's
that
just
first
the
house.
house.
it's just that.
Just that first house.
Yeah,
First,
Got it.
yeah.
Thank you.
thank you.
so
So
much.
you were a yes.
Sorry for,
The first.
yeah.
Eli, are you prepared to vote?
Yes, I
Okay.
voted yes.
Oh, okay.
Voted.
Didn't hear.
Christie still has a question. Go ahead.
so if this is not included in the grant, what are the steps for the town to take out the 600,000, whatever
That's
it is?
the select board's work.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is, we're just, for this grant, we're just saying we're not including it, and then the board would decide
Okay.
what it would do.
And just to note, and maybe you know more accurate information, but the wording of that loan document would be based on whether we get the grant. So
Correct.
if the grant comes through, the loan comes through, we do the project, we sell the lots, we pay off the.
Let's go.
Let's just, can we
Okay,
just,
can
let's-
I
finish.
wait, you're voting yes, Walker, and Christie, are you,
I don't know.
so an undecided,
Yeah.
good enough.
Are you abstaining, Kirsty?
Yeah, I don't have enough information.
All right, so yes and one abstention.
And then,
Rick and Lauren and Tim. So,
Yes, yes,
okay,
Yes, I'm voting to not include the land acquisition in the grant.
got it. Rick?
Same here, yes. And just
Okay.
a point of order, Donnie, if I could. I'm gonna have to go out of cell range, but of course would like to be a part of the decision-making process. Can you hold my votes as they currently are for future votes?
Say again what you'd like to do, Rick?
I would
I'm
just-
hearing you say-
Property.
Go ahead, Rick. I'm hearing you say that you would, that there's gonna be a vote at the end of this whole discussion. Rick would like to register his vote now because he's not gonna be there.
Oh.
He's not gonna be here at the end of the discussion. Will we accept his vote? That's the question.
That's the group.
I mean, I think Rick has done yeoman's work on this. He's entitled to the vote, and I would tend to want to accept his vote at this point. And
We're also 10 if we don't include Rick. So we would have an even number.
Yeah.
is there objection to accepting Rick's vote at this point when we're not at the vote stage? That's the question I'd like to
I
ask.
think the
group.
only thing is that technically legal, I think would be my question. And that, but the other thing is that we're an advisory body. So what we're doing is providing our opinion, I mean, essentially our votes as an opinion. So, you know, I, on the one hand, it's like if we were voting on something where we're promising to spend $1 million, that would make me feel uncomfortable. But in this circumstance, I'm kind of inclined to say it seems reasonable, but
I think,
what do others think?
I think unless someone challenges it, yes. I mean, everything's open to challenge later, so.
Look, I mean, should we have a vote just for the record to say that we are choosing to accept that as a reasonable determination?
Yes, I think
I
that's.
think that's a
good idea.
motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Is there unanimous consent to accept Rick's vote at this time?
Yes.
Yes.
Done.
Okay.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
taking.
Yeah, thank you all. I'm sorry to not be in touch.
Rick, for the record, your vote is to what? Can you put in your own words?
My vote is to recommend this to the select board. I'd like to have a more vibrant community discussion about it, certainly, but at this point, I think this is an excellent path forward for the community, and I don't know that we're going to find a better one. A lot of people have done a lot of hard work on it, and I think the community deserves to be able to have a discussion about it. So yes, I do vote for us to recommend it to the select board.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, great. So thank you, Rick.
Okay,
gonna
thank you all. I'm going to be leaving. Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for checking in.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yep, okay. The next part is a more technical piece, and Liz is gonna hand out the budget. And Arian, you're gonna put that up.
Yes.
Okay, so item C, funding infrastructure for the East Village expansion with the grant. The scope of work in this category includes water, sewer, stormwater, electrical distribution, data, phone service distribution, roads, sidewalks, parks, street lighting, wetland restoration, and landscaping and improvements to create usable common spaces. The intent is to include paved roads and buried electrical lines in the proposed scope of work for the grant. If the overall project cost comes in too high when the infrastructure goes out to bid, value engineering will identify elements that should be modified. Funders may have concerns about removing certain things and not others. The estimated cost of infrastructure to be included in the grant, $6.7 million, and Liz will review the budget with the group at this point. Leaves back.
Share in your mind.
You guys have a
Question
question?
not relating to the content. In the agenda for tonight, there's things that say like 15, 20, 10 feet.
Oh, it's not me, it's minutes, and I'm supposed to be two. It's supposed to be two.
Thank you, that's it.
It's my error.
No, that makes
Trying to
sense.
be crafty and not in safe space, so I have to write minutes.
No, that's okay, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a common abbreviation in some industries, but.
I'm sorry.
What do you deal with that?
Okay, so the format of this budget is kind of a standard way of presenting housing development budgets in grants. So at the top, you have your land acquisition costs, which taken together are 575,000. Then there's a line item for an appraisal. And then the $10,000 is an estimate of your lawyer fees, title insurance, and recording fees, standard closing costs. So that gives you 591,000. And that's what's kind of determining the loan number of 600,000. Because you want a little wiggle room.
Can we ask you questions in each section, or you want to
Sure.
wait till you get done?
Yeah, no.
So, were all closing costs in the land acquisition in the budget?
Yeah,
Like
that's what this is.
The 30K that
Originally.
supposedly, that isn't in our budget, apparently there's something about a 30K for closing costs on the purchase and sales agreement. Peter mentioned something about 30K and I just, no?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, so all closing
don't know.
costs for the land are included in this
This
figure.
is an estimate. This is just an estimate based on all the projects I've done. If the town thinks it has $30,000 in closing costs, I'd be interested in knowing why, but we can certainly put those in.
Yeah, I think if somebody could just confirm that.
Sure.
My second question is regarding the property appraisal.
I am.
When does that have to be, they've signed the purchase agreement?
Yep,
So from a HUD grant perspective,
yep.
when does this next property appraisal need to be done? And will it be, do they require a bank appraisal type format or the narrative appraisal that they did with the purchase and sales agreement?
So there were already appraisals done,
That's correct.
and those just have to be updated by that appraisal firm. And that's a standard thing, an
So we're
updated
not using
appraisal.
HUD money for
And-
a position.
And know that there's no, it's not a bank appraisal, it's a standard, like in Vermont, there are industry standards in the housing development world that are funded by grants. All the appraisers, your appraiser is familiar with those. It's a standard commercial appraisal
Okay, so
based
basic-
on land sales.
okay, so basically it's a narrative format like they produced already.
Yes,
And
exactly,
it
and
will
they'll
not be
update it.
a bank, and
No.
it is not required by HUD grant to do a deep dive bank
No,
appraisal.
no,
Okay,
no.
I just need clarification.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the Vermont Community Foundation. They would be okay with that. okay.
They would determine what kind of appraisal, yeah. Yeah, and I just want to say, there may be some HUD regulations somewhere in the Code of Federal Regulations that prescribes appraisals. I would just caution people against going and finding that and assuming it applies to this grant program.
Okay, so I have another question, sorry.
Yep.
So are we saying, I gotta just understand this. Okay, maybe it doesn't matter. So we're saying, sorry, I talked to myself in the meeting. So, yeah, I know, my head's reeling here. So basically, this property appraisal that is in here is not for the HUD, well, it's going in for the cost of HUD, but is it really for the 600K
No, I know
loan?
what your question is, so it's included in the project budget, but it's not gonna be funded by the grant.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
is there a way in this budget in the future, if there's somehow you could identify NA, not included, in the grant?
So if you look down at the bottom of this
Probably up
page,
there, right?
you look down at the bottom of this page, you'll see a line that says total development costs.
Yep,
And then below that are two more lines.
yep,
One of them says we gotta include the match for Martin Meadows
Yep.
for the USDA grant,
right.
which is now 304.
Right.
The other says deduct your Vermont Community Foundation funding. And so, which included the $150,000 loan you already got plus 600,000 over on the right, there's a little note. So that determines your grant amount.
Yeah, which for clarity, we have not closed on that $150,000 loan, and we are trying to see if we are gonna need it in the same capacity for pre-development. So we
What-
have not actually borrowed that money yet.
What do you mean in the same capacity?
It means it's possible, If we wait long enough.
The timing works out.
The timing works out.
Spend it
We
yet.
won't-
Engineers probably need to get paid.
We probably would, yes, yeah,
There's-
it's the likelihood that we need all of that money, though, given the timing of things, is looking.
Well, let me just tell you, you won't see this grant. If you get this grant and if you accept it, you won't see it for a long, long time.
Yeah,
See it for a
so there's
long-
the.
Well, so till like next summer, like this time, like. you won't.
So can you clarify something for me? So for the engineering, the archaeology studies and all of those things that are falling in the 150K,
Right.
have we received confirmation yet, or can we receive confirmation as soon as possible that those will be paid for as the pre-application cost?
They won't.
They
They
will
will
not.
not be paid as the pre-application.
So the town's on the hook for the 150K. That,
We-
that's what you said. I mean, not you, that's my word, but
The-
you said they're not.
as I understand it, the things that we spend money on, where's the line? On what's available for.
So the way the grant works is you can reimburse, if you show up with an invoice from an engineer,
Mhm.
that can be reimbursed by the grant. If you show up with, oh, we made a loan payment, that cannot be reimbursed.
So we haven't closed on the loan because we're waiting to see if we can work that into, we've got a grant agreement. And then we need to use that money because the town has money right now at its disposal to be able to pay some of the bills that are being incurred. So there's a strategy here to try and hold off on closing that loan, so we have a chance of getting that money back. But if we were to close the loan ahead of the grant, it's pre-approval of the grant, therefore it's disqualified because no loan can be reimbursed.
It seems incredibly weird to say this, but it turns out that it's true, as best we can find it. If we borrow money to pay for the expense, it's not reimbursable, but if we pay for it out of the town's coffers, it is.
It is.
Don't ask why.
Those are the rules. So there it is.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, so the next section is your construction hard costs. And Rick and I have discussed these, and we came up with different numbers for a reason. The biggest reason is that the manufactured home that's already on the land, there's still some uncertainty about what's gonna happen with that home in terms of moving it, leaving it, different kind of things. First of all, you can't move a manufactured home and have it be okay. Actually, let me back up. The first thing is, when you use any federal money for any purpose, and you have to move someone because of the activities that are grant funded, you have to follow the Uniform Relocation Act. And the Uniform Relocation Act says that you have to pay for everything that's involved in displacing this person from where they are. You might give them another, if you were rehabbing a multifamily building, you might move them to a different apartment. But you have to pay for everything. If you displace them entirely, like kick them out, you have to pay for all their housing and utility costs for 3 years. So it's in the town's interest to help the person stay on the land. My recommendation is you plan to buy a new manufactured home, because moving them is risky in terms of having all kinds of failures that the town would be responsible for over the years after you move them.
What do you mean by failures?
Well, manufactured homes are tied together with their truss system and walls, and then they have this underbelly, which is like a huge black garbage bag that holds everything together. And when you pick them up, that typically falls apart. So you already have to replace the underbelly. Depending how old the home is, it'll crack and the roof.
Walls will start
I got
shifting.
it.
Walls will shift.
I get it. I'm with you.
Old pipes will crack. It's a mess.
Okay, I'm with you. Thank you.
So I recommended to Rick that the town carry 110,000 for getting a new home. The other costs are putting in the gravel bed, the slab, the driveway, having it be a marketable lot. And that would all follow Uniform Relocation Act regulations.
Yeah. Does this include all the hookups to the infrastructure?
Yes.
And who own do we know who owns? Are we giving the lot away to this individual, or is this lot up for sale? I would like clarification on that.
I think that would be good to defer that. I mean, I think we could, I think we
Okay.
absolutely should talk about that, but I think we should talk
Okay,
about
that's
it in the
fine.
lot
That's
sales
fine.
section.
That's
Yeah.
fine. That's
You
Yeah.
fine.
can't sell the lot to the person. You have to give the person what they have.
That's part of that discussion.
Yeah, that's.
We'll get to that.
Yep, sorry.
Okay.
The other figures Rick just got from the cost estimator, Peter. Except I increased the design and estimating contingency. So that means like if you're putting in the infrastructure and there's, you know, a boulder in the way that can't be moved, you have to redesign that section of pipe. And you need that contingency.
So this, is it fair to say that in all your experience, you've made these estimates for this budget based on all the times that you've seen things change and morph and the budgets go woo from what you start with?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we can zoom out a little and I can just give you kind of the context being that any housing developer you talk to will tell you. You start with a certain design, going down a certain plan, and by the time you get to construction, most of these things have changed somehow, some way. There's just too many decisions that need to be made, too many variables, and it's also a process of discovery. When you're working with your engineer, you are constantly discovering more and more data that is not evident when you begin. Right now, they're in the schematic phase, so they've just kind of created a scheme and they know from Josh and other folks what's possible. But when you actually get to like surveying the topography and shooting the grade and doing all the technical, you know, discovery, you learn things that change this picture. That is normal. It's gonna happen. All the grant funders know that. It happens to all the housing developers in the state all the time. So the other, and that's a reason for increasing contingencies, is you have one shot at this. Construction contingency, Rick's cost estimator had 10%, I put it 15%, because you're gonna have inflation too, by the time you break ground. Typically you carry your owner's construction manager in the construction budget. So your owner's representative works, and your engineer will also have a construction manager. Because your contractor needs to know from an engineer, oh, I dug down, I hit water, how do you want me to de-water this trench? Your engineer makes that decision. Your owner's rep, your engineer turns to the owner's rep and says, is that okay with you? Does that meet your, you know, is the town okay with that? And the owner's rep is there to represent your town. So this is the cost, we assumed 18 months of construction.
So, Rick had made some comment when he did his budget, and I won't get it right, but he put in his budget, I want to say the cost under the engineer versus the contractor when he was talking with us. So this figure here is for both of those?
No, the engineering cost is down below. This is just the town's person who's going to be on site managing construction.
Okay, only town person.
What would it call clerk of the work?
Okay, this is the clerk of the work. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, sort of. They have a little more authority than that. And this budget, this line item actually includes enough to have both a high level owner's rep and a clerk who's on site every day.
And only through the 5 years of the project, not beyond.
18 months, just construction.
18 months.
Yeah,
Okay.
just the infrastructure.
Yep,
Construction.
that's good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's construction.
Actually, I'm just wondering what the contractor markup bond insurance is. That wasn't part of our budget, so I'm not familiar with what this is.
Yeah, so that is in Rick's budget.
Oh, it
So-
is?
Yep,
Um,
so that, I just mushed it all together.
Oh, okay.
So contractors, always mark up for their profit.
Well, yeah.
So that's about, I don't know what the disaggregation is. Yeah, I don't know what the disaggregation is, but I have 17% for all of it. I think contractor markup varies between 8 and 9%. And then the bond is usually about 0.0125.
And what's it, can you tell me what a bond is in
Yes.
this context?
Yes, so, a bond is required by federal funds, and it means that should your contractor go belly up, there's, the surety company that provides a bond will pay the
Okay,
town
gotcha.
for the loss, for any
Gotcha.
losses.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
And then, yeah, and then there's insurance on top of that, which is like their risk
Right.
liability. Okay, soft costs. So in soft costs, this is like a catch-all phrase for everything you can't, that's not tangible. Your consultants, you know, funding for different costs. So for engineering, we got a summary from the engineer indicating what the remaining cost is after this phase. So this phase 130, and then he was estimating about 300,000 after that. I put 350 because it just makes me nervous. Everything makes me nervous. By the way, developers don't sleep. They're nervous all the time. They do these numbers in their head every day. Like it is just the nature of doing development. So, you know, yeah, theoretically you could take 50,000 out of that, but, you know, that's pennies on the whole cost. Other engineering we put in for landscape design, and like you guys have a lot of common areas and natural areas. And if you want those to be like nice amenities for the community, you know, if you wanted like informal trails and paths that were just designed nicely, not as you might not have the money to build them right away, but you'd have the design. This is the time to do that. Legal and accounting is for, the town's gonna have to have an audit, a single audit for the grant. And then legal's just for your lawyer to do all the documents needed. There was a question earlier about subrecipients with Down Street. So what happens with this grant is, there's all kinds of grant documents that codify that relationship.
Mhm.
So there's a subrecipient agreement.
Mhm.
And then your lawyer writes an opinion to your select board that says, I have done diligence on Down Street and I can see that they are, you know,
Right, they can be certified or
can
whatever.
be, sorry, they are completely competent and have a hugely long track record with community development grants. That's all they use community development grants for everything they do.
Right.
There's no way to do it without.
So you only talk about one grant here. What about all the HUD grant quarterly audits that have to take place? Isn't there more audits that just
That
for the
they audit the
project?
state. The state is the recipient of $7 million a year, plus all this disaster recovery money. HUD audits the state, like the state and the city of Burlington are the only two entities in Vermont that get the money directly from
Right.
HUD. When the state grants it to all these towns, HUD doesn't come and talk to you guys.
Right, they talk to state.
They talk to the state.
Right.
So no, there's not quarterly anything. There's reporting that every town has to submit grant reporting, which is like every 6 months. And you have to tell them what you accomplished, how much you spend of their money, how much you spend of other money.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you gotta get a survey, you need a plat for the property, and you need individual lot lines need to be surveyed and plat created. You have a phase 1 environmental site assessment that basically shows HUD that you don't have a list of things that are contaminating or history of the property that was contaminating.
Does Down Street have to do any environmental review on there? Is there any other environmental reviews that are required other than this one? Let's put it that way.
Right below it, it says NEPA, that's the National Environmental.
Okay, yep, okay,
Yep.
for just for Martin Meadow, not for the land.
No, it's for
So-
the land, it's happening right now. There's a woman doing the NEPA for the land right now. But she's doing it for free. This NEPA is for Martin Meadow.
This is just added for section.
Yeah, because she hasn't, that was an add-on to the grant after she started, and she's donating her time
For the other.
for the town, for the land, and then hopefully she'll stick around and do the Martin Meadow NEPA and get paid for it.
That would be nice. Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Then we have an allowance for all the permits and fees. The engineer provided a letter itemizing all the permits and what they might cost. I threw in $10,000 for Act 250. We will know if we need that before the grant goes in. Because we're asking the district for a jurisdictional, if we need a jurisdictional opinion, and if they're seeing any red flags.
Tony, this is one of my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, but because the town created this as a neighborhood development area,
Right,
that means it's supposed to be Act 250 free, but
right,
we just want to make sure.
right.
The most recent report.
Yeah. Marketing and advertising, so this is, so that your community members don't burn out. And they can, pay for some materials about the new community. And have that out in the community and market it and make sure that it's, attractive and people are getting information about lot sales.
Oh, maybe that's it. So this includes anything you think we would have to do to promote the land sales of
Exactly.
the 40 lots?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Then the next three items pertain to a construction loan, which you're gonna need because the grants are reimbursement only. And it takes about a month to get your reimbursement. Sometimes in the summer it takes longer because everybody's on vacation. And the end of the state's fiscal year happens and it gets really slow. So sometimes you have to float the loan for 2 months. So the idea here is, I probably shot really high because I hate it when I run out of money for construction interest. It's really a bummer. I put in $5 million loan amount at 6%. Interest on that would be $25,000 a month, I think, unless I did that wrong. Somebody else who's better at math should do that. But we'll refine that. We'll drill down on that. But altogether, you have to pay your origination fee for your loan. If it's like the Vermont Housing Finance Agency, they'll have inspections. That's the other thing, is you'll have your lender inspections coming and seeing like, are these, are things happening? Not homes being built, but are things happening to get the construction done?
So
So that's a
this,
third party.
this money's included in the grant or not? This what you're talking about right now?
Yeah, construction origination fee, inspection fees and loan interest.
Okay, because
Yes.
Rick made some comment at the last meeting that the funds wouldn't come in quickly enough. And we would have to try to find a way to figure out how to pay them. But if they're coming, but these are designated coming from the grant. So, and-
No, the loan itself comes from the Vermont Community Loan Fund or the bank or whoever, or Vermont Housing Finance Agency. That's where the loan comes from. But once you draw a loan down, if your contractor hands you an invoice for $732,000, you have to have $732,000 to pay the
Right,
invoice.
immediately, yeah.
So you draw your loan down, you pay your contractor, then you have to go to the state to get your $732,000 back. And that can take 2 months. And in the meantime, you're paying interest on that $732,000.
So this is.
Kind of like a home equity line of credit.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep, I'm with you, thank you.
Insurance is for the town. Liability during the project. Then realtor fee commissions is that this gets into kind of a program design issue, which is that it would be highly unusual and probably more risk than any select board would want to take to be involved in directly selling land to individuals. It would not be a best practice. The best practice would be to do a request for proposals for realtors. And you could have one or more realtor market the land on the low mod income lots. Since those are being granted to the buyers, then the town would pay, or the grant would pay the commission. Because there's no real money changing place. So this means you would have one or more realtors out there marketing your lot sales also. And that's another way of mitigating the risk that lots wouldn't sell, homes wouldn't be built, this all wouldn't happen. That's
Does that also, no, maybe it does. Does this also mitigate the discrimination, Fair Housing Act and things like that by having a realtor involved in this to
Exactly.
protect the town?
to protect the town.
Are we still at any risk there?
No.
If we hire a realtor to do this?
No.
We're not,
No, because realtors are licensed,
right? Got
and
it.
if they're not licensed, you don't want to hire them.
Yeah, that's a bigger problem. Okay.
Just a clarification, so you just stated that, the LMI lots would be given to the
Individuals. Yeah,
individuals.
yeah.
Okay, that's
We haven't
not,
had that conversation yet.
Yep.
That comes later.
yep,
So don't jump.
no, I just wanted to make sure that is what I heard.
Yeah, that, if in fact that is the case, then what Liz said is you need a realtor
Right,
for what you're selling. So let us just say that.
yes,
So whichever
I just
matches
wanted
the-
to clarify that that is exactly what I heard, so we can move, I get that, yes.
Okay.
It's not part of this
Yep,
particular
I heard.
conversation.
All right, archaeology is happening now.
Fields have been plowed, hooray.
I didn't even notice.
Gonna just come out today.
Yeah, well, I was gonna get through the budget and then run down the hill, but maybe I'll peel away and just do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
We're almost there.
temporary relocation and moving costs is for the person in the manufactured home. You're gonna need to like get a storage container, put all their stuff in it, put them up in a hotel while their home gets moved. Or a new home gets constructed. Working capital and pre-development costs is, pretty much like if you go to develop something, you just need cash for little stuff that comes up. It's like, there's just costs everywhere.
Yeah, there's postage fees, there's rent.
Yeah, there's just like, a ton of stuff. So that's a little bit of cash. Project management assumes that you would find someone for 20 hours a week, every week for 5 years at $100 an hour. And the fact is you wouldn't need them every single week because you have holidays and stuff and people.
So
things
we
slow
put,
down.
we had put 500,000, but your budget's. at
I would bump it
500.
up a little because you're
Yeah.
counting on that.
Okay.
If you couldn't find someone for $100 an hour,
Yeah.
you'd have to look at 780 if you paid $150 an hour. My rate's 125 hour. That doesn't mean I'm offering to do it. I'm just saying the consultants that in my category who understand how to do this work all charge more like 125, 150. One of them lives in your community. There's other consultants that all are listed on the webpage with the Vermont Community Development Program, Vermont Community Development Consultants.
So this doesn't address after the closing of the project and the requirements of HUD after it and whether.
It does. That's what that person is doing.
But it's only 5 years. Isn't there more after you close the project about program income coming in and still having to do some reporting on that or?
So there wouldn't be program income, remember?
Say, pardon?
There would not be program income
Hmm.
because that's
Because
not
we're not
going.
using the money to
Right,
acquire.
so
the
maybe I
land.
should ask
So-
you a different way. What other types of reporting requirements are necessary for the HUD grant after the closure of the project? Maybe that's how I should ask it.
After the grant is closed?
Yes.
The only thing that would be required is that for the lots that are low mod income,
Yeah.
they, when they sell, have to still be sold to low mod income for a period of time.
And
And so there's a conversation to be had with Downstreet about being that entity that monitors those sales. This is a model that, like, I live in Burlington, we have inclusionary zoning. Every developer, no matter what they're developing, whether it's $1 million condos on the waterfront or $350,000 condos in an apartment building, has to include 20% of those units have to be affordable at low mod income, 80% of the median. And the housing trust helps monitor when those sell and the land, it's recorded in the land records, so you get a little, the lawyer calls and says, oh, there's this weird covenant that says we have to sell to someone. How do we know if they comply? If they're eligible, and the housing trust says, that's our job, we're gonna do our job.
So is that the same with Habitat? Is it the same? Will they do the same?
They
thing?
will do their own units. They will monitor their own.
So
units.
both of them
Right.
have their standards in place to do
Yep.
this. Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
Got it. I'm
Well,
with you.
they do, but isn't the town taking on some of our own?
The low mod,
the Loma. So the
Yes.
idea is to have Down Street in that
what we
role.
would do is contract with
Or a
Wall Street to
contractor.
monitor those and manage it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking.
Capacity. Right.
And this is during the project period. This is not after.
It's after, I believe, for 5 years. I believe the HUD grant comes with 5 years of compliance on that piece alone.
So that is if someone wanted to sell the home within that 5-year period, there has to be, there has to be.
The resale has to comply with the low
With
nine.
With the
First, so, okay,
But
I just want to get the
Yes,
5-year thing straight.
yes.
So there's the grant itself is a 5-year grant is
Yes.
what I understand now, not.
It's 6, but the state is giving us a deadline.
The state says 5, and then you also know that
You have a
it's really
buffer?
6. You have a buffer.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just for argument's sake, we'll say 5.
Yep.
Okay, so we close out the grant and then we have another 5 years to comply
On the, not.
on the low and
All
moderate.
the homes will be built by the end of supposedly 2030. Okay,
Okay,
or 31. And then people are living in their homes.
yeah,
And then like after a year or two, someone has to sell.
yeah,
And that's a low mod income lot.
yeah.
When they sell, some entity has to make sure they sell to another low mod.
Oh, because it's within that 5 year.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
now, thank you.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
missing that.
No,
5 years from
everything
now,
goes really fast.
Not that, it's nothing to do with the grant, it's 5 years from the house was closed. Or
It's
whatever.
5
the-
years.
Those 5 years from the
5 years
grant was
from the
closed.
grant closing.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Sure, that's 5 years and not 20, because I kept seeing 20 for the rental.
I will,
Now, the shared equity for Down Street, their program is a 20-year
or
affordability.
their program
Might
is
be more than
permanent.
that.
It's
Yeah,
perpetual.
Down Street's permanent.
But there are others that.
I will ask for sure.
Let's.
I was seeing 20 when I was going through HUD, I was seeing 20 for the rental. I didn't.
Oh, no, that's different. That's a different program. That's a totally different
So
program.
that's for rental, but for ownership,
Yes.
it's different. So,
Okay, so it'd be just nice to get that documented.
Yeah.
Because that's a pretty.
Were you looking at the rental rehab program? Was it called section one?
I was going through so much fun stuff. I don't.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like,
There's, it
Yeah.
was confusing, but I saw 20. So I
there's it's like section 108.
okay, all right, done.
So we're,
I saw 20 quite often.
so we're
Yeah.
talking about contracting with someone to watch this for 5 years after the grant.
Yeah.
closes. Where is that money?
Right here. So if you go down into the next line item, first you have a soft cost contingency, so that's 8% of all the lines above that. In case, whatever. So then you see Down Street home subsidies and program management.
And if you go to number D or letter D,
Yeah.
it explains what the 1.375 number, how
A
that
part of
works out.
that PM is the part of manager for this.
So there's $25,000 for Down Street
Yep,
for their staff capacity to help
With
support
those,
all this stuff.
right, okay.
Yeah,
And that's why the down street went from 1.1 to 1.3.
yes, exactly.
And this is 45.
Well,
So the 45 units is a different question.
so save that for the,
Right.
yeah, okay, so let's see if we can,
And actually, does it matter, if it's a grant application, you have to give them a per unit cost, is that what that's broken out for?
Sort of,
well, they do look at it.
I just wondered why it was broken out.
kind of, but not for this grant. It doesn't really matter. That's not really what their concern is. It's just it's this practice that we do per unit.
All right,
That's this development
Just wondered.
stuff. Yeah.
great, so we have, so let's, please, Chrissy.
Someone down the line at some point asked, what the process is for hiring a project manager?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we have a project manager line, so.
Yeah.
Right,
we
so
take that?
most towns do a request for proposal.
So-
The same way you do a request for
Yeah.
proposal for any consultant. In fact, even for your engineer, you really have to do a request for proposal,
Right.
even though you already hired one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so that'll be the select boards.
Yes,
say
correct.
others.
Right.
And that was that was my comment to him. You keep talking about downstreet managing this afterwards. That's gotta be competitive as well, right?
No, not that.
Why not?
You sole source that because no one else does that.
There's only one.
That's a
Okay.
procurement thing.
Yeah.
Sole source,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
all right. Are we ready to straw poll funding infrastructure for the
Oh,
East Village
I
expansion?
did want to make one other comment for the committee's, knowledge. I did specifically talk to Rick, and I hate that he had to leave. And I asked him specifically, if we were to reduce the number of lots, how is that going to impact the construction costs? And he said minimally. So these costs are these costs, no matter how many lots within reason that we build, because otherwise it's changing the stub outs, that kind of thing.
My question is, if we were to mess with the lots and the design
Right.
and scale down, that doesn't mean we have to stick to the same road
Right.
configuration that we currently have. We could make that
Right, it
much
could be-
smaller, which I would argue with
Yes.
Mr. Rick,
Yes.
that would
Yes.
actually decrease the
You're
cost.
right.
But-
There's some design, there's some physical design elements with doing a circular water pressurization that do lend themselves to the existing.
They do like it. But yes, that, I did specifically ask him that after our meeting Thursday, actually.
But if you make it small enough and you do like a road out and anyway, I'm just saying that reduce the roads, you reduce the budget.
All right, let's, at this point, this is the budget.
Yes.
Thoughts and questions still,
Yes, ma'am.
but if you need to pause now.
No, I'd like
okay.
to actually complete this one, and then let's take a break and.
At our last meeting, there were concerns that if we don't make sure that there's wiggle room right now for adjusting the drawing, the lot numbers, all these things, then later there will not be an opportunity or all of that. I don't want to gloss over that. I think that's very important to bring that conversation back. So is this the time to do it, or are we?
I was waiting for the law. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Liz, what do you think about that? Where
Can
does
you
it
help
come?
me understand the context?
So basically, is there an interdependency in the number of lots compared to what you have for a budget item in infrastructure? Because if we get into a discussion about changing the number of lots, what's the impact?
Yeah, I think what we have been talking about is that, so we're applying based on a particular design for a particular, right? But we also know that we may or may not get all of this. And that we'll have to look again at what can we
If you
do.
don't get all the grant, then that would naturally beg the question of whether a redesign. would
But we're
apply.
talking about redesigning before we even apply for the grant.
There's not time to redesign before you apply for the grant.
Yeah.
That's not,
That's,
the horse has left the barn.
I think that's what the townsfolk are saying they are concerned about.
it's scary, right? It is, because it's like, well, are we locked in? But I would say we're not. Because we're not breaking ground, we are not signing a contract with the state, we're not doing any of that
Right.
today. We're not doing any of that right now. What we're doing is putting our best attempt forward to get in the game. And if they come back and say, well, we're not gonna give you 10, but we'll give you 5. Then we have a very different conversation about.
That's not the question here.
No.
If we ask for 10 and tell them we're gonna build 40 houses, whatever, and then we come back later and change our mind and say, you know what, we wanna build 20. We can't.
We
Right.
cannot.
That's why we're
she's saying,
talking
yeah.
about, that's what
Yeah.
Kirsty's
Yeah.
saying, that's what all of my input is getting from all of the people I talked to.
So you
Yeah.
just confirmed that, because we were wondering
Yeah.
how much room we had after this got submitted to change the design that is up there for whatever reason,
So Liz, is it that, I mean, going from 40 to 20,
For instance.
Let's just
No.
say,
For instance.
probably not a possibility, but could you go from 40 to 35? Could you go from, who knows? So there's wiggle room, but is there a significant, like, we're gonna cut it in half? Once we've made the application,
exactly.
this is what we've applied
That's
for,
right.
and this is what, and the state has goals, right, to be able to meet certain things that they've promised to HUD. So they're gonna fund the projects that help them meet those goals to deliver affordable housing, to get more housing into the system, into the state. So,
And it's also my understanding that you lost 40 homes or 39 from your tax. base.
39 units, yeah.
Right, 39.
Units which are different than
28,
houses.
Right, but the value of them had an impact on your tax base that gave your town tax revenue, water rate revenue, wastewater rate revenue. So the number, it was my understanding the number was based on, Your
Been through
losses.
these all over and over and over again from the very beginning.
Right.
yeah, so
We
that,
understand the.
But
yeah, so it's hard to make an argument in the grant that
That's what I thought.
that this is disaster recovery, because it really doesn't help you recover unless you're actually replacing the revenues that you lost.
It's in our
Right.
charter.
I'm sorry,
It's in our charter to do that. By the town select board as a condition.
To replace the housing.
To recover the loss.
right, so I'm just saying, I wouldn't be able to make the case in the grant that you're actually achieving a disaster recovery program economically. Like, there's questions in the grant, like, one of the questions is, why is this the best approach, right? And what other approaches were considered? So I could write, well, it was, the idea of building 20 lots was considered. But that wouldn't achieve the other representations in the grant where there's this whole disaster recovery section. So I'm just saying, it wouldn't be a competitive application. You could do it, but it just wouldn't, resonate.
Is this,
Kirsty's hand is up, hang on.
So I understand that your focus is on making this a successful grant application. My focus is on hearing what my neighbors are saying. I'm in a butter, and I've been speaking with 20-ish people, just throughout the community. I'm hearing that folks are not comfortable with 40 lots. So I hear you that you're focused on the grant being successful. I'm focused on the community, feeling positively about this project. Throughout this project, there has been multiple times where folks were told that they would be able to give input on what our plan is. I don't think we've had meaningful input on the plan that we are moving forward with now, so I feel it's irresponsible to lock us in at 40.
Just go ahead.
Vicky, you're gonna.
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I don't know what else I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, first of all, the scope of what we had said we were supposed to get significant input from the public on the proposed B design or whatever it was we started with. And I feel with what I've heard right now, based on what you're saying, we're locked in. We are locked in. When that goes in 40, whatever, we're locked in. That's it. We're locked. I'm not comfortable right now with that. I don't even know if what we're offering is affordable houses because I haven't seen our new models and what they look like and what these lots are actually going to cost and whether they meet the HUD guidelines for affordability. And I'm struggling with this one right now.
So, let me just say, I'm just gonna answer that question, but the other stuff Karen's gonna take us, it's not, like, I'm just a grant writer. I don't have like any opinion about your number of lots or what you're doing. There is an affordability analysis we're gonna talk about later, where you'll get the answers to those questions.
Yeah. So I guess what I wanna see if we can do. Because all of what's being raised has to do with the lot sizes and the design,
No,
Lot numbers.
and the lot numbers, yes,
all of it. The lot sizes, numbers,
right?
yeah.
Yes, so I hear that, so. And so what I'm gonna suggest we do is take a break, get some food, and then when we can reconvene, let's have the conversation of the hard conversation about the lot sizes and the lot sales, because that's the need. These other things, the downstreet piece, I think, and the Habitat for Humanity piece, like, those are probably easier for us to talk about. And we could certainly come back and do the easier pieces and feel like, yeah, if we go forward, those still do make sense. But I feel like the bulk of our conversation really needs to be about the hard stuff. And I want to acknowledge that in normal times, you would have taken much more time to engage the community as an advisory group, to get the feedback, to look at redesign, all of that. That is true. I get it, absolutely. But we're not in normal times. We have this one shot for this potentially 10 million. And that pushes us into a really uncomfortable place. All of us. This has been a really difficult process for those of us that are in the middle of it, and for those of us who are having to advise the board here. So I just want to acknowledge it because we're all feeling that. I wish we had had 2 more months, 3 more months, 4 more months, but that's not where we are. So, so let's take a break and come back. And Eli, I'm going to let you say what you want to say.
Chrissy, I just wanted to disagree with your specific phrasing of meaningful.
Okay.
I do think that there was meaningful input on the design as it's been put. I hear that there is more input to be had, but I think that there has been up to this point.
All right.
I respect your opinion, but
Thank
I'll
you.
agree to disagree.
Okay.
So I would offer that maybe we all take a nice big deep breath and get some food. We can take a break.
Sounds wonderful.
Hey, this is Kim on my phone. I need to leave. So I wanted to see if I can be extended the same opportunity that Rick did to say because we are moving simply towards the application, not receiving it, that my vote is yes, but I expect I'll be back on before this meeting is done. In terms of this conversation, I do want to observe that we did all approve moving ahead with the grant application, with the drawing for 40 lots. So I'm a little confused at the conversation last 10 minutes or so. That's it.
Can you refer to when?
The agreement was that we would move forward.
When we
with
put in
this
the pre-application.
to edit.
Right, we said we would
Yeah.
be able to we would be able to edit it before the final grant proposal went in. And here we are.
So
Gotcha.
Don, Kim is asking for the St. Curtis.
Yes, I think that's fair. I think if we extended it to Rick, I think we
Absolutely.
should extend it to Kim. I'm
Someone-
hard pressed to find anybody who would. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Donnie has a motion and who's seconding?
Second.
Okay, Liz is second. Okay, and
In that case, all those in favor of accepting Kim's vote, say aye.
I,
Aye.
What is our vote?
and
Yes.
then Kim, in your own words, what's your vote?
My vote is yes, and the strongest basis is that, yes, I believe we should pursue a $10 million grant and the opportunity for it with further discussion and opportunities to decide whether or not we accept it, should we be granted it.
Yeah.
No one's
Thank
gonna
you,
turn it down.
Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
I agree.
All right, so it's 10
Thanks.
minutes. to
See you in a
7.
couple hours.
How much time do you?
Such optimism.
Would you like?
Wait a minute.
Say 15 minutes, is that not enough time?
Can you pause?
Eat and pee and.
We were getting close to a vote on C. So Karen, are there more questions that you want to field before we go through the straw vote on that?
Vicky?
Yeah, just a clarification. When we vote on this item, are we only voting for whether we want to include infrastructure costs into the grant, not what the infrastructure costs support, meaning the lots? And
That's
that's
correct.
clear. Is that clear?
That's correct.
That's correct. That's why I wanted to make sure.
Can you?
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say it one more time.
Vicky has asked if saying yes to this is to include infrastructure costs for the project in the grant, not the exact number. So I would say that's yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, can we take a straw?
No, I'm confused. Not the exact, you have an exact number in this.
We do have an exact number because that's what we've been discussing tonight, but I think because we're gonna go into a conversation about some other things, what I would ask is to amend that.
Okay, yes.
Connie,
Yeah, we can do that.
to just to not say specifically, but to include the infrastructure.
Okay, so
Everybody
the
agree with
amendment becomes funding infrastructure without a yes vote recommends including funding the infrastructure costs in the grant application, and we're striking the 6.7 million. Is
Correct.
everybody okay with that? With that amendment?
Yes, yes.
Are we ready to vote on it in that case?
Yeah.
Okay, in that case, we'll call the roll, starting with Arian again. A yes vote recommends including infrastructure costs in the grant application. Arian?
We are recording, we started recording when Donnie started talking, so we're
Okay.
good. I vote yes.
I vote yes.
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 Lauren,
Yes.
Kim back on?
No.
No, okay, and Rick, so that's everybody.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. So, before the break, we said we would go into the lot sales. I just want to take a temperature. Is anyone feeling like the downstreet or the habitat pieces of this need a lot of conversation? Get a lot of questions, or is there some? Like, I just trying to get a read. Like,
I just want to know, maybe I'll answer my own question, but it appears that Downstreet is quite familiar with the financial controls and procedures that are required, so that limits the amount of risk that the town is in. That's a true statement, right?
Right.
Okay, that's all I really,
All
just
right.
wanted to reconfirm.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, so,
It can, just by point of reference, when Downstreet talked about building some apartment buildings very early, when there was still an informal committee, and the number that they talked about were 30 units. So for them to come in and do 5 is a very small project for them in the grand scheme of what they normally do. So like they did the transportation center in downtown Montpelier, like that whole building was them. There are quite a few buildings they've redone on Main Street that are apartment. I mean, this is a small side project in the grand scheme of the work that they do. I think.
I would also just like to know how much time they need to accomplish something, you know what I'm saying? So if we get the infrastructure in 2 years, can they finish what they need to do in 3 years to meet the requirements of the grant? I don't know the answer to that.
Well, they are very familiar with the grant requirements, and that would be their commitment, and they will have a commitment letter. And their commitment letter will be conditioned upon assuming all the funding is available. You know, that's.
so that's part of the subrecipient grant agreement. So like, if they're gonna get funding out of this grant from us, they're a
Yeah.
subrecipient, and there are agreements that they then
They're just
sign.
as locked in as.
They're locked in.
Right, but are they held responsible for the piece of money that went to them if they fail on their
Yes.
deliverables?
Oh, yeah.
And the town is not.
They are. Yes?
Oh, well, let me clarify.
They have
I
to-
mean, yes and no. It's like the town would be the accountable entity. The town could theoretically sue them, so you could get your money back. But I mean, this is true of like, I'm working with the Abenaki Food Shelf and the town of Swanton. Got a grant for them and, you know, they said they're gonna do this renovation, and if they didn't do it, the town of Swanton is legally liable, but they could sue the tribe for not doing the
So
work.
basically-
I mean, it's all one of those legal dominoes, they're all tied together.
Right, so basically, we are responsible for it. I mean, there's ways to go,
Everybody's responsible.
right,
Yeah.
with them and us are
Yep.
responsible for that being completed
Right, I
under
mean,
the
that's-
requirements
That's
of
true with
HUD.
the USDA grant too. You know, it's like every grant you get, that you could say that, but that's the reality of what happens by any stretch of the imagination. That's not the reality at all.
Lauren's got a hand up.
Lauren?
I would just say that based on my experience with Downstreet, as a donor to them, as, you know, being privy to some of their board meetings, their fundraising, I just think that they are a very solid organization they're very capable of doing this kind of project. It's a very small project for them, and I can't see them, you know, not fulfilling their obligations.
And also like any town that has trouble works with the state. They come in and they work. It's like a bank doing a workout. They don't just like make you pay the money. back.
Right, I
That's not what
understand that,
happens.
right, I understand
You
that.
know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So just to see, so would the group be comfortable voting on that piece? At this point? I'm seeing lots of head shaking, yeah.
That's a general question, because it wasn't clear at last meeting.
I didn't hear.
You're,
She was asking
She likes to ask a
question.
Go ahead.
So down, buying the lots, or are we just giving them the lots?
They would be subsidized by the grant.
Subsidized in the sense they wouldn't be buying the.
Right, they wouldn't
so
be
that's
paying.
not
for
money.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only
Did
way
you
to make
say-
them.
Okay, that wasn't clear.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
so Downstreet would be subsidized by the grant.
So they would not be required to pay for the lots that
Correct.
they are on, so we are subsidizing fully
With the
as a
grant.
town. And we are not getting any revenue from them for those lots, they are getting all the revenue.
And that's included in the 1 point, whatever it is that we've got.
Right.
375.
Right.
I don't,
Plus they'll get other.
I don't think the
subsidies.
value of the land is included in that figure as a
Okay.
practical matter.
Okay.
Yeah,
We,
you know, given that, you know, an estimation of the value of the land is probably in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $60,000. Again, we haven't set final pricing, you know, there's all those caveats that we can provide, but it's in that order of magnitude. That said, you know, we're buying it with grant money then using the intention of the grant, it's
Public-
it's
the
public dollars.
Money that's subsidizing.
Yeah, it's
the
not,
land.
the town is not we're not pulling out of our pocket, and we're using the funds to allocate to make this more possible, but we do collect the tax dollars on the other side of that.
How is it not coming out of our pocket if we just borrowed the money to buy the land?
Because
Because-
because we're gonna pay back that money, we're gonna more than pay back that money in the selling of a small number of lots.
Think of it this way, the loan is gonna be recouped through selling market rate lots.
Okay,
To the upper.
I understand that
above,
part, but
right?
it's still costing us
grant-
money. It's just,
Well, the grant will
offset.
be subsidizing
yes.
the total development
Yeah.
costs.
I mean, Josh is gonna have a line item that says, hey, we just gave them that lot, but here we made the money to pay it back or whatever. That's, yes, okay. We've got to carry that cost somehow.
Right.
Well, I would say we're essentially assigning a $0 value to those lots. You know,
Right,
so
right.
which is like, if we have, you know, if we're a business and we have inventory, we're saying that inventory has a $0 value, and we're gonna recoup our borrowed costs on 12 lots that have real value.
And the fact of the matter is your total development costs will be higher than anyone can afford to pay.
Right.
So you're subsidizing everybody.
Right.
The grant is subsidizing everybody who lives here, one way or the other, because nobody can pay $215,000 for a lot.
what do you mean by everybody?
Everybody who lives on the.
Everybody who lives on the property will benefit from the grant.
Because the
because
infrastructure is paid.
The costs of the infrastructure are such that if you then break that out among 40 lots, all of it's too expensive. This is why housing doesn't get built in Vermont, because the costs are just too expensive for people to pay for it out of their own pocket.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
So,
so
well,
a yes vote recommends including 1.375 million for the purpose in the grant application. For this purpose in the grant application.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes,
Vicky,
I'm just trying to figure what I'm on. Hold on. I just want to read it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Really?
are you a yes?
Or is everybody?
we're at the bottom of D.
I'm trying to get my hands around it, I'm sorry. I don't know what I am.
You want to abstain?
Yes, I don't know what I am.
Okay.
Okay, we'll have that as an abstention.
I have a question. In the next section, it includes the size of the lots for Habitat for Humanity. Is there a decided on size of lots for Downstreet?
I don't believe that they've specified that, whereas Habitat for Humanity said if they're gonna build duplexes, they need 1/4 acre lots,
Got it.
which is sort of logical. I mean, like, you wouldn't want to put a duplex on a much smaller lot, especially they have, and I think they made it on the website, they have some designs of duplexes they've built. And it is like a 3-bedroom duplex. I mean, it's like, they're pretty big, the footprint. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, three, I think there's 3 to 4, I mean, it's big, anyway.
Moving on, so
I would-
you want us to come back?
Vicky abstained. It's up to you, John.
I think I have more questions, but I think I'm too late, right?
No, you're not too late. We're pretty informal here, Vicky.
Is there a question that,
I'm trying to
Tips
figure out
for
what my
you?
question's gonna be.
All right.
Sorry, it's just, I'm trying to ponder this whole thing. So, oh goodness. Okay, so we're subsidizing them for the lots. They own the lots, they can sell the lots, they can get the equity from the lots. So can somebody tell me once again how we're benefiting from this?
so the way Down Street's shared equity program works is they sell the home for, well below market.
Right, for
Right,
people that
and
can
then, and it's perpetually affordable. So there's there's nobody selling the lot to make profit. It's so that it can go to the next affordable
home
person.
person, yeah.
So that's how that works.
Nobody
but-
gets the equity, nobody gets the equity.
Can I try to? We're not benefiting from this. The only thing that this does is it accomplishes our charge of providing affordable housing.
We do
It
get the tax
doesn't-
base. We do get the
And
tax
tax
base.
base.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't necessarily accomplish our charge of housing flood victims. Because to get into this housing, you have to go through a downstreet program. right?
Yeah.
So I think it's worth doing.
So how does that affect the people that had FEMA? Can they come into this grant, or are they outside of it because they got FEMA?
People have to qualify at the low and moderate income level to be able to get into a shared equity home.
Regardless of whether they got anything from FEMA?
Correct.
And that FEMA would count, huh?
Assets in an account do affect the, our qualifications for downstream. You can only have so much money.
Right, so they may not qualify because of the female, but it's just, it gets counted as income or whatever it is, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
I do have one question that I forgot I had till you mentioned something. So the tax base, so with the subsidized selling, like Down Street, say sells a house for 200,000, which is say 100,000 less than what like normal retail value would be. What is it taxed at? Like, is it taxed at the actual like real value or at the
It's
what it?
taxed at a lower rate
It's,
by statute, state statute.
it's also, so, because I know that, you know, when you're lower income, I mean, there's a pretty generous, tax, oh God, what's it called? So it's sensitivity, so you can
Right, well,
earn,
there's property taxes, there's the homestead rate.
yeah,
And the tax rate that the town sets is by state statute a lower rate based on if there's a covenant on the property, a deed covenant.
okay, so they have their own separate rate altogether.
I guess you could think of it like that.
I mean,
But there also is like, there's an income thing, so like you can only pay up to a certain amount of your income in property taxes and the rest is subsidized by the
That's
state.
the homestead rate.
yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Okay.
But that's different.
That's different.
Oops, sorry. Are we losing revenue because they're lower than market value in for the town?
You're not losing revenue because they wouldn't be built otherwise.
Well, is that a true statement? I mean.
Yeah.
Getting
what-
less.
meaning, we're using them, this is, I'm not sure I got this right, but we're basically using them to meet a goal of the LMI for this grant. And my question is there, probably isn't, but is there any other way to accomplish this without having to use them?
Not
Then
with the
subsidize
grant. You could
everything?
certainly, the town could certainly borrow the community foundation loan,
Right,
buy the land. And do what St. Albans and Bellows Falls and Dorset and Burlington do and do an RFP for a developer. And their developer would pay the town $600,000 and go develop with very little community input.
And
We'd find it.
extremely expensive.
and build whatever they wanted.
And build, they would have to
Within the
build,
zoning.
I mean, it costs Down Street like $500,000 to build a house. So that's why developers charge $650,000
got it.
for a house. So that's the alternative. If the town wants housing. There is the RFP route, or you could do an RFP for affordable housing and you get big multifamily apartment buildings,
Okay.
which is what you have to do because of the economics of real estate.
Yeah, thank you for explaining
Okay,
that.
so we're in the
Yeah,
middle of
that
this
helps.
vote.
Okay.
And was that, Vicky, do you stick with your abstention or,
I'm feeling more comfortable now, thank you, so I think I can say yes.
okay? John?
Yes.
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 Lauren?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
moving right along.
great. Then are we good with just jumping in the habitat and then we'll,
Yep.
okay, great.
Oh, sorry. I'm answering
That's
for
fine. That's fine.
people.
So, item E,
I don't think it's clear.
include an option agreement for Habitat for Humanity for a grant. It's 5 quarter-acre lots to construct affordable duplex units in the East Village expansion project. To support the construction of the affordable units, execute an option agreement with Habitat that says lots will be granted at no cost if the grant is approved, but if not approved, the option expires. A new option agreement can be created based on the conditions in place if no CDBG-DR grant funds are provided to support this option. So again, this is a kind of similar to the Down Street piece. It's giving Habitat an option that if we get all the money, that we can help to subsidize the purchase, the land basically, for the purpose of LMI. Yeah, John?
Your explanation in this first paragraph here just says 5 quarter-acre lots. It doesn't actually say 5 duplexes.
It does actually. 5
Affordable
quarter-acre
duplex
lots to
unit.
construct affordable duplex.
That doesn't say 5 duplexes. It says quarter-acre lots, then we can span lots.
I'm sorry, say it again.
You can span lots with a house. That's why I'm asking.
I mean, we could.
Should we reword it, John?
To build 5 affordable houses, 5 duplexes. I
To
would say.
build.
I wanted to make sure that was clear.
So to
Yeah.
put number 5 between the word construct and affordable,
Yes,
would that do it?
yes.
Okay,
thank you. I mean, that's not that's not the text of what we're voting on, but I just wanted to
Thanks
clear
for the
about.
clarification. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Okay. So questions?
Yes, is this the same similar thing that we just did with Down Street that we're asking to do again is to subsidize? And these would still be, will these homes be sold at a lower than market value for, they're not, it's not the same program, so how does that work, is what I want to understand.
Habitats program, you know?
The Habitat program I'm not as familiar with, but they show up with everything and you don't have to add additional subsidy to them. They might go to the Housing and Conservation Board and get subsidy from there.
But when the person sells their home under a Habitat. home-
Habitat manages that process. So it goes back into the Habitat system. Habitat selects the next buyer.
And they have to have hundreds and hundreds of man hours of equity to do that.
So basically theirs is they get contractors to donate time to help build the property versus having a developer. Down Street does more of a, they get a developer to come in and build these, that program is more equity. So they get donated time from, like, you could go donate time and there's a contractor that oversees the project.
Yeah.
So it becomes a labor equity position versus money.
Thank
I
you.
don't see this in the budget.
It's not in the budget because they don't need any money from the grant,
Yeah.
other than the lot. The free lot,
It's just.
In it. yeah. It's a free lot.
I have a question just in the wording and it might just,
This is your word of this, what?
so.
See that?
Well, just that with the Habitat for Humanity houses, it expressly says that if the grant is not approved, the option expires, and I'm assuming that's the same deal with
Yes. of course.
downstream.
Yeah.
That, I assumed so, but I just,
Yeah.
because it was so right there, I was like,
Well,
oh,
that's
is
because
that's the
Habitat
language
has
they
been
used?
moving- Wants to do the option, they've been more proactive, yeah.
So how is this impacted if the amount, the 10 million, we get 6? Is there any impact in this because of it being, a grant is approved? Does it matter how much of the grant is approved?
So if you don't get all the money, then the town has a strategic decision to make. And that is, do you apply for additional grants from other sources? Or do you go back to the drawing board and see if you can come up with something that works for the community development program with less money.
But in
But it
this,
depends like on what they say about it.
but in this case, the land is coming out of the presumed loan that town's gonna take, so that has nothing to do with the grant. And then they're bringing all of their own equity and everything else to build it, so it should not affect
For Habitat,
for Habitat,
Right.
correct?
My sense,
I
my
think
sense is
it
from
did.
talking with the folks at Habitat, if we were in a situation where we had, we were struggling on our end because we got far less grant funds than we'd hoped for. My sense is that Habitat would offer to purchase the land for some amount of money and they would try to figure it out on their end. I mean, does that mean they would pay full market value for it? No, but does that mean they might pay 50% or something like that? I think that they would be open. My sense is, I obviously can't commit for them, but my sense is they'd be open to that conversation.
But it's not gonna change the grant substantially.
Well, it would just, everything helps at that point, right? You know,
Right.
like, yeah.
And I think the point should be made that having partnerships with Downstreet and Habitat strengthens this grant application.
Right.
It shows our commitment to affordable housing.
Especially that Habitat is looking like they've agreed to sign a purchase option if we present them one. I mean, obviously, we would recommend to the select board. The select board has the final say on that, but they're like, no, they're in. Yeah.
Christie?
I have two questions. The first is who decides which lots and how? I guess that's for both Habitat and Downstreet. And the second question is, if we end up adjusting the number of lots, would this number stay the same?
I think the commitment from Habitat is the commitment, 5 lots.
Okay.
I think both Downstreet and Habitat have requested that their lots be interspersed with the rest of the community, so it's not sectioned off. So that this generational, socioeconomic, that there's a lot of interplay and that there's no, like, oh, these are the Downstreet homes or these are the Habitat homes, right? So I think the decisions about which lots go for sale at market rate and which lots are built a different way is really a recommendation that this group can make.
Yeah.
And that is up to you.
I would also add that there are some lots that I think inherently would sell for more money. And those are like the lots with the views, which is like, nobody's surprised by that statement. So I think that there would be, we as a committee could make a recommendation about that, but I mean, I think if I think there would be some lots that are nicer and would sell for more. And I think there's a strategy.
Well, yeah, you definitely have to make the most
Yeah.
economically strategic plan. So, so Downstreet and Habitat for Humanity houses will all stay in their programs forever and ever. Is there any, not that I'm proposing, but just curious, because we're talking about it. Is there a way to get out of the program? Like, is a house ever out of that program?
Oh, in the state of Vermont, has a land trust house gotten out of the program? Yes. But they put enough safeguards in place that was
It's
early on.
Virtually impossible.
There was like a track record of what works best, how to run the program the best.
Okay.
Since then, okay, it was like learning from some mistakes early on.
All right. So any other questions on this? Way to
Okay,
vote?
we're ready to go.
Yes, vote. Donnie, you can read it.
A yes vote recommends including an option agreement for Habitat of Humanity in the grant application.
I vote yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Lauren? I see your mouth moving.
Yes.
Like a yes.
It did look like a yes.
Thank you. All right. Okay, the last small piece before we jump into the other, if you're good with it, we could talk about the professional project management services. We're good to go? All right, great. So include funds to hire professional project management services. This item would include $520,000 in the budget to fund professional project management services over the course of 5 to 6 years. The town will explore its project management needs and decide whether or not to hire a temporary staff person or to use project management consultants. The intent would be to defer to the select board on this choice. Hiring one person could provide project continuity, while using a broader array of specialized consultants could offer greater strength and outcomes in each specific area. And I would just say that we all recognize that town staff is small and doesn't have this particular set of skills, and that we're gonna need this for the next 5 to 6 years. And probably, I would say, this is my opinion, beyond this project, right? There's just a lot going on, but for this, it's that period of time at that amount of money to be included in the grant. And also, I would just add that this item is strongly encouraged by the state, actually required. We're on no uncertain terms that we must have professional project management. So, questions?
Yep, of course,
Go
right?
ahead.
Liz, for you. So, it gave kind of two options of how you could kind of approach this particular thing, hiring the one person or going to special consultants in an array of specified areas that they specialize in. In your experience, with all the experience that you have, which one of these have you seen work best for the towns?
Well, it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish, because if the town has like multiple grants and more than one of those grants has money for project management, it could make sense for the town to combine all those project management
Duties.
revenue
Mhm.
under one position and
Yeah.
hire a position.
Yeah.
For a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
To complete everything. So it depends on the skills needed,
Right.
So if you just take it on a community development grant by community development grant, there's a program management contract, and if the town doesn't have a downstreet working with it or a staff person, then the consultant is typically the way that towns do this. So for example, like all the towns that are buying land and packaging it and doing an RFP for developers are using consultants to do that. And then they'll either, like little town of Dorset will use a consultant to help them get through the process. Where City of St. Albans has a staff person that will do that.
Do you ever see them use both? Both options here?
Yeah, I mean, sure, because you can own, like in the grant itself, there's a line item for program management or project management and a line item for grant admin.
Right.
And you could just have like a grant admin consultant do all the reporting and Davis Bacon and, requisitioning, like those functions of the grant. Those are
Yeah.
just very administrative functions. And then maybe like Montpelier has a regular community development manager, might do everything else, but that's less common. So
Okay.
it just depends on the group, the project and the town, and what its needs are.
Liz?
Just because I'm not clear on the responsibilities between what, I don't even know what to call it. I know we've used the clerk of the works, but you're saying it's not quite that for the owner's rep. And then the grant, and then this position, like a
Yeah.
little summary of what
Yeah.
both do so I can get it
Yeah.
straight in my head.
So, think of it this way, the runway to get to construction is just full of activities and tasks. Someone has to make sure they all happen. Your contractor only shows up when you sign a construction contract. But managing the budget, managing all the consultants, communicating with the select board, communicating with the town, grant compliance, communicating with your funders, tracking all the costs, working with the town treasurer to
Yeah.
make sure everything's getting reconciled. All that stuff, like making sure the project gets to the construction contract is just full of a huge amount of work.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
so
all
that's
that.
this position.
Yeah, that's project management.
Job is
Yeah,
fine.
okay, yeah, which I assumed. I just want to make sure that I understood it
Yeah,
correctly.
it's a common misunderstanding. It's not obvious and these terms get thrown away. Our
Well,
rules are different.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And then the owner's rep, that's somebody who's going to assist the,
once the construction contract is signed, they show up to represent the town It would be like,
Where-
City of
yeah.
Montpelier has a DPW director with an engineer. The engineer shows up to make sure the infrastructure is getting built right.
Yeah,
It's like that person.
okay, kind of the literal boots on the ground
Technical
in the,
expert for the
looking over the
town.
shoulder
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of thing. Got it. And this one's to manage all the grant and
Program.
kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like the conductor orchestrator.
yeah.
Make sure everything happens on schedule, on budget.
Yeah.
Great, so Walker next.
So my understanding is the project manager is the higher level operator here. And looking at making sure everything happens on schedule. And where this town is, or this committee, or this plan is a little bit different in that there isn't one developer or two developers. You know, we have the habitat and we have the low income housing developers. And we have the infrastructure, and that is a clear management project. But we also have lots going in. And we have private homes being built. And my question is, would this project manager be involved in making sure those houses were built? And or overseeing a building manager that would help those homeowners, those home builders combine resources during this build out phase? And have you seen project managers do this in other scenarios?
So I just need clarification on what you mean by combined resources.
Well, if we have 10 pads going in over a 4-month period, it makes sense to hire, you know, to bid that to
One contractor, right, yeah, so, so, yes, the project manager, like you could. The town could write its purchase and sales contracts to the individual lot buyers. And in the contract, it could say, you are committing to deliver your home by the date,
Yeah.
by when, right? So then the project manager would monitor that.
And would the
And
project
then
manager
if people
have-
said, you know, like, if the project manager knew that 3 or 4 people were ready to pour their pad at the same time, sure, the project manager could support them. You know, I mean, I think the project manager will be in meetings with everybody all the time. Like,
That was just my
like 3 homeowners would come in and be like, we're ready to pour our pads, and then be like, okay, go get your design, your specs, whatever. And yeah, that'd be good. And here's some contractors you all can, you know, yeah, I imagine that would be a possibility to include in their job description.
Well, and then the other question, the follow-up was that, does that increase the project management item in this budget, or should it? Because that's a much more.
I mean, after the infrastructure is in the ground, that's what they're there for.
Okay.
So what else are they gonna be doing besides helping the homeowners deliver their homes? Yeah.
Do you have any reference documents that kind of at a high level describe the roles for the various things that we're trying to place in here that you
I
could
should
share with
find
us?
them, but not by the grant. No, not by the deadline. That's like, but you could ask ChatGPT.
ChatGPT?
Oh, gosh. You did, but I just wondered if there was anything specific to.
I don't know. I mean, there's
Grant
nothing like, I mean, you could ask the city of Montpelier for their like community development director.
Okay, I was just
description or
curious. That's
something
things
like that.
If I
You
don't
know,
go there.
it would be like that. And you could call, you know, PCI is my construction management partner, and ask them for a job description.
Okay, thank you.
But
Or
they're
just
all
look on the
very-
web under Indeed and like look under, you know, community development project manager.
Okay, thanks.
Great, so.
Are we ready?
Good? Yeah.
Then a yes vote recommends including $500,000.
520, yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, that got amended to
Yes.
520.
520, $520,000 for project management for the grant applications.
I vote yes.
I didn't hear you.
No, I'm sorry. I have one more question and I
Go ahead.
apologize. I meant to ask it earlier. So I just want to, in the budget, because I looked and saw the fire, anyway. And so you said that, you know, you tend to recommend 150 per hour. And so but we're voting on the lower,
Yeah.
so I'm just questioning the amount.
I know, and this is where, see this line item, see this line at the top that says,
Assumptions,
yes.
Yes.
These can change.
Okay.
They depend on.
yes, all right.
This budget will change, believe me.
Yes.
It won't be
Discuss it.
520,000 any more than it'll be like, you know, 375, 760.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just wanted
you'll
to
just
make,
get a big chunk of money and then you'll figure out what to do with it.
yeah, I
Based on all
know.
the cost estimates you have.
I know.
But I will tell you, Liz, that when we were first talking about this, I had $1 million in mind for the 5 years. Because it seemed to me that, you know, yeah, you've got the hourly rate and then you've got like maybe just other expenses that will need to. But Liz told me, maybe we don't need as many of those hours because, you know, you might not. So
For 5 years.
So maybe it's somewhere in between.
Okay.
It'll change.
But this is where we start from.
Okay, so after all that, yes, I'm starting.
Okay.
Oh,
And on the
But
budget,
Liz, you voted yes.
Yes, I
Okay.
did.
I vote yes.
is there project engineer?
There is now, but based on federal procurement regulations, there may be a good chance you have to go procure the engineer properly. So we can't just assume that this engineer is gonna be the one, unless
so
the
it's a
community,
project
unless the
engineer.
disaster recovery program allows that.
So does the project, because I think at last meeting, we had a project engineer. And I'm not seeing the project engineer. So are you combining project?
No, that's
engineer?
under the first line of soft costs is site plan and civil engineering, 400.
Okay, so you're calling it something different than.
Yeah,
what
yeah,
they thought.
sorry.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's what I just didn't know if you were combining them.
Oh, I see.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Vicky, we're up to you.
Are you? I
Yes.
heard you missed all the others right now.
Well, everybody voted yes before you, if.
And I
you'd like that
stopped it,
information.
right? I stopped it. Okay, I stopped the train. Go ahead. I said yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you. All right, buckle up.
Yes, Ralph.
All right. Number of lots and lot sale plan description. So, and just to set the frame, what we're looking for here is consensus on the number of lots and housing units and the description of the lot sales program after this discussion to be included in the plan. All right, we may be here a while. So we'd like to come to an agreement on how many lots and housing units we are committing to within the grant application and discuss how to structure the description of the lot sales plan within the grant application to be sure it fully represents the thinking of the committee. The grants committee is recommending that 40 lots and a minimum of 40 housing units be proposed consistent with the project plans to date. Likely other lots will be constructed with more than one housing unit. This makes 40 units a safe, conservative estimate. The more housing units our application can commit to, the more favorably our grant will be reviewed. And the current lot sale plan includes 40 lots. Of those, 28 lots to LMI requirements. And of those 28, 5 lots reserved for downstreet and 5 lots for habitat. Then 18 for other sales or grants, all as less than 1/4 acre lots. These lots would likely need to be granted in order to create an affordable total cost for households with incomes below 80% of HUD area median income. This leaves 12 lots for open market sales, mostly all as 1/4 acre lots. The goal to average.
That should be 1/4 acre plus. Actually,
Plus.
many of those are greater than 1/4.
Thank you,
Yeah.
plus lots, goal to average greater than 100K per lot. In this model, the deliverable with the grant is 40 lots with 40 homes, 70% of them, which is 28 lots to be LMI, all delivered by 12/31/2030. And then I'll turn this over to Liz because she's created the
table
The
that
table
shows you
and-
what Karen just said in a more of a graphic form.
Mhm.
And then someone was asking about affordability and what that means, and I can pass this around.
Do you want me to put
Can I
your,
just
You like-
address the numbers that we just went over? I don't know if I'm And 28 lots to LMI requirement. 28 being 70% of 40. But
Can we be clear? Are we talking lots or units?
that's
Two
exactly my
totally
question.
different numbers.
Because 5
Okay.
lots are reserved for Down Street and 5 lots are reserved for Habitat for Humanity.
Right.
But
15
but
units.
that's
The-
10 units.
So the guideline is however many number of homes are built, 70% need to be LMI.
So
below
then a
80%.
duplex counts as one home.
No, that counts as 2 units.
So it is a
Okay.
unit, yeah.
Then we've got
45.
the 18 others for sale / grants. Should be a different number. Oh, 45, that's where the 45 comes.
Yeah, 45.
Got it.
Right.
Thank you.
45.
Sorry, I was just not.
No, I know.
Sorry.
It-
Thank you so much.
So.
We had the same confusion over and over and over.
Great.
So, Walker,
Your deliverable says 40 lots with 40 homes. But this table says 45. homes.
Yeah, so the minimum deliverable
Yeah.
that you want to promise is 40.
Okay, so.
Anything but that is gravy.
So if we had conceivably, if we had 10 habitat and 5 family street. Conceivably, we could shave off 5 lots,
Say it again.
right?
Yes.
And still deliver
Yeah.
a minimum of 40
Yeah.
homes.
Well, so this is a nuance because you're asking for the money for the infrastructure to deliver 40 lots, 70% of which, 70% of those lots need to be LMI. Because that's what you're requesting. You're requesting the money to create 40 lots.
Got it.
Not,
That
not
clicks.
70% of them.
That clicks.
Right.
We're building infrastructure for lots, that's all we care about. Yeah, that makes.
So is the
clicks.
math wrong?
No, the math is
No,
right.
No,
that is
that
fine.
was right on.
We were
the
going
lots,
by like,
40 lots.
we were
Okay.
hookups, then it would, if we were going by like
Right,
how many
right,
households are
Yeah,
served,
yeah.
it would be different.
Yeah, and this is just what was told to the community development staff. This was told to them, we didn't drill down on units versus lots, we just said 40 lots, money for 40 lots.
So,
But to the community, it's 45 homes, families. Is what you're proposing to the community, just to be clear. It's 40 lots, 45 homes.
I
Units.
mean, this
Unit.
is a program designed from the
Unit,
community, not from me.
Is that correct?
I believe that is correct,
Okay,
yes,
so
yeah.
I just-
I mean, it's logical, I think it's. I think it's logical to say that's. We know that there's gonna be 5 duplexes at a minimum with this, and so that's like, okay, well, you have 5 duplexes and you got 35 single family homes, that's 45. Is it likely that some of those buildings have, some of those lots? You gotta be careful, watch everybody, the words you're using. Is it likely that some of those lots have more than one dwelling unit on them? I think the answer to that is, out of 35, the odds are, some of them gonna happen. I mean, how many, is it the majority? I doubt it's the majority. But are there some of them where maybe people build other duplexes, maybe somebody.
ADU.
ADU, small apartment building, I think the likelihood that something along those lines happens is reasonable. Yeah.
I'm asking really based on.
Lauren's got a hand up.
Understanding.
I'm just asking if speakers from the
Sorry, I didn't
floor could identify themselves so that people on Zoom know who's speaking.
That was Tammy Farnham.
Okay, thank you.
As a grant professional. If we had worded it or if we word it as homes, as dwellings
Mhm.
instead of lots,
Mhm.
would that give us more flexibility on the number of lots that we have in this plan?
Great question.
That's a great question. Yes, the answer is yes.
How hard is that to do? In this
we're still right.
application?
Yeah, that's,
Oh, man.
that's not hard at all. It's just to find and replace.
Can you say that one?
Yeah,
If we
It's important.
worded this grant application, not in number of lots, but in number of homes.
units.
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 That helps me.
In my feeling is that would give us a lot more flexibility on how many lots are in this plan.
That's
Where
right.
they are,
Hmm.
and how they're represented should I do.
The main thing you have to think about though is, when you do that, is the marketability of a lot. If you're looking for more than one unit on a lot, you have to think about what happens to the marketability of that, who you're gonna market it to. And who's gonna, that's a higher risk proposition, because you have to, in order to get your appraisal value to the point where you can get financing for something for more than one unit. You know, it just changes the economics, so you just have to
Right.
think about who's gonna buy the lot. Are they really gonna deliver a duplex or a triplex, you know?
I mean, I'm just thinking, like, if we're saying that our goal here is 40 homes instead of 40 lots. That's a minimum. It gives us some opportunity to expand the affordable housing portion of this plan, potentially. And lower the amount of lots in this, on this property, which I think is
Right.
the community's concern, the local surrounding community's concern with this project. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
The butters.
Not just the appendix, no, don't put it up.
Right, so if you did
No, I
40
mean, that's-
homes, if you did 40 homes, 70% of them, but 70% of them would have to be affordable.
Right.
28 homes.
Yes.
Homes or units? What are
Units,
we talking
dwelling,
about?
units, dwellings,
Homes,
homes,
a unit is a home,
Yes,
not a
that's
house,
what it
not a
is.
building.
just a
Different.
home,
okay,
it's someone's home.
It has.
and we have 15.
4 walls is the room, home. Yeah, interesting. Huh.
We're just trying to.
Yeah, I think your only challenge is the marketability, like, then you're counting on a certain number of lots being more than one unit. Who's gonna do that?
Why
Well,
would
they
we
would stay
change
larger
the numbers?
lots.
Say it again.
They would just be larger lots.
But you have to deed them to the owner. So you mean, I mean. Like, who would build 2 single-family homes on one lot? Who,
Someone
you,
who's putting
like,
it in view, is that the same thing or different?
you could do an ADU, sure, but you have to do it. Like, you would have to do the ADU, which puts you into it, like, if you wanna look at the.
ADUs are not considered a dwelling.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
Yeah.
So there was a hand.
It was mine. To me, it seems like, so if we tweaked the language to reflect what Walker just stated, it doesn't mean necessarily that we have to change any of that, because we're already at, theoretically, 45 units as it stands. But if we reword it the way he's saying it, if something goes weird or something, is that where the flexibility comes in? I'm not sure.
Well, saying is
Yeah.
that instead of putting duplexes in, if we had some triplexes or quadplexes in there that are LMI. And we had some lots that are larger than our current plan that are sold to individuals to put one house in and not duplexes. We're still delivering the same amount of housing, just units, but there's less physical building
Right?
on the land.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the concern of the community is.
I don't think that
Some-
really addresses, I see what you're saying, I
Yeah.
guess, but I don't know that it really.
Well,
It's a
I'm
good-
wondering if those who have had strong feelings about this, what's your reaction to what Walker is suggesting? How does it land for you?
No,
I heard you're with, you were no, but I'm wondering, Kirsty, how that lands for you, not to put you on the spot, but
No, to me, it feels like the first. I'm not gonna say the first, it feels like a genuine attempt to actually hear what community members are voicing. And I feel like that's been lacking, so that's really, it's nice to hear that. And I think it's a step in the right direction. I don't know if it's the final answer.
thank you.
What she said.
It just made me think about that if we were to go in this direction and we didn't get all the money, we still have flexibility because we still might be able to create the design a little bit differently and still get to a nice number of affordable units and meet the goals that we all would like to meet, which is to rehouse folks who've lost and who want to get in the housing market and all that. And so I really like your suggestion because I think it does afford us some wiggle. And still to the state, when they're evaluating us, still is a very strong application. And really addressing the affordability.
I want to second that. I think this really only opens options rather than closes them down, and I think it's a really slick way of tackling that in a way that we would give us the flexibility to do some things down the line. Unless there's other technical problems with it, I think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah, as far as the rewording, I think that makes a lot of sense. I just don't, the other piece of that as far as like reducing the scale, I don't think it really I don't really think it really answers that concern, and which is fine. That's not what we're really talking about here. It's more about the flexibility, which I appreciate and respect.
Thank you. Vicky?
I have to agree that it's a start on hearing what the community had to say and being more creative, perhaps, giving this innovation in the room to get to something that might work a little better for the community as a whole, which means it could be position this for better success when the community come into it. I think it's important that we as a group show in some way, and this I think might help start that we've heard that and we're attempting to figure this out. So that's where I'm coming from right now.
Great.
The second bullet point on the second page of that, it says 18 other sales grants, all for the LMI.
Yeah.
We're only controlling the land. How do we control what they're building? How can we guarantee that's going to be an LMI house?
It's a great question.
Mhm. Yeah.
In the purchase and sales contract, so they have to
They can only spend so much on their house or something like that.
demonstrate.
Well, not that they have to
Like-
demonstrate that they are in town. Portion.
But they can build anything they want to on it once they do.
What they can afford to build.
Well, if they're really, yeah, I mean, after doing eligibility,
And all of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
And
looking at
within-
it
and
pretty
obviously
limited.
Within
scope.
zoning.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure there were guardrails there of
yeah,
some sort.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
So this isn't addressing paying for subsidizing those lots. This is only addressing how we can kind of be creative of the solution of the
Correct.
requirement, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really kind of elegant solution to the quandary of what do we do about that number? Because I think if we're talking about units, we can really get some flexibility in the way we get there.
And I wanna point something out, I think this is important that we're talking about this, because flyers were at least delivered to my mailbox that have a pamphlet in it tonight about things relating to this project, and one of them is density and pollution. Sorry, this is small. Folks are concerned that 40 or more lots for single family and duplex homes, tiny houses, mobile homes, apartment buildings would result in 80 to 100 more cars in an area already suffering from increased traffic due to the disruption of Brook Road, 5 to 10 years of construction noise and dust, and ongoing light, air, and noise pollution are listed as concerns. So I think
Noted.
I'm glad we're talking about this.
Noted. Yeah. Great. So with that change, are we good to move forward on this?
I want to hear more. I want to hear more specifically your concerns about the density or the number of homes or the number of lots and.
I actually, talking of straw polls, I did a quick count. And just quick overview again. The downtown houses within the 2 blocks, there's between 20 and 30 houses there. And that is 13 acres. We're talking about putting 40 houses on 8 acres. That's dense. That's wicked dense. And that's a real problem for me. So,
Say those numbers one more time.
oh, they're rough, you know.
Yeah,
There were between 20 and 30 houses, kind of hard to tell with the tree cover.
yeah.
And it's about 13 acres of land on those two, just within this, not outside the roads.
Many of those are multi-unit dwellings. though.
Right.
Just
Right, of
for,
course.
for the record.
Of course
Yeah,
they are.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking units, just purely
Yeah.
buildings.
So can I ask you a question? So based on what the changes that kind of Walker was proposing,
Mhm.
does this help or not help this situation?
What he's talking about helps, but
Thank
I don't think we're to where I could support it yet.
Okay,
And are you actually deleting those documents or just leaving them in and saying for the grant that you're only doing 40 units?
right.
I would propose we're doing a minimum of 40 units, and it gives us the flexibility to set where those units are based on what the community wants, and also, you know, the original design, which was to sort of mimic where our village was, density was, which is a good point that you got. House to house, but those are also, yeah, like Aaron said.
They're multi.
There's a number of those that have 3, 4, 5
Oh, lots
units
of
that
them
are
are.
in them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're big old farmhouses that have been cut up. Yes.
So are we kind of settling on the 40 units? Is that kind of what we're settling on? Is that,
Minimum.
everybody's starting to feel a little bit more comfortable or what? Not over here, okay, go ahead, speak.
I think. I guess I'm just trying to consider, we have had very minimal. Input during our meetings from folks who actually showed up, not on the committee and spoke. So I just keep thinking about Rose and George.
Right.
I trust them probably more than anyone else who's spoken about wetlands. They said, putting. I don't remember exactly what they said, but the gist of it was that if we put more than 20 homes in an area of wetlands,
Next to what?
next to wetlands. Is that responsible? And I think I just keep thinking about if we are setting the people who are moving there up for failure, because I think about how John's basement just flooded. Rose and George have been very clear that there would need to be a lot put into basements, sub pumps, all of these things. Financially, that's not affordable. So I'm still thinking about that, aside from my own personal feelings as a butter.
So what I'm hearing you say is you have a concern that, um, that we have some really important issues that have to follow a structured process. Make sure that what we're doing up there has the least harm. And, what I can report is between the permitting and all of what's required of us up there. The state, and Liz, you can speak to this, you know, between the NEPA review and all of the permitting. We are relying on state experts. We're not gonna be able to do things that are gonna be harmful up there. They won't allow it. So I think there are gonna be a lot of checks and balances along the way that could change the plan. But it's not us doing it. I wanna say, Kirsty, I wanna say, we have to follow what the state permitting is and the experts that come out to do that. So none of us can say, oh, we're just gonna do what we think is best. They won't let us, right?
With that, on a selfish note, my home's not being considered in those studies. So is my home now going to take on more water because of this project?
Okay, so there's John.
And
Stormwater.
what you just said keeps resonating with me and other people I've talked to is. This is the frog in boiling water. At what point do we say no, or this is enough? Now, do we wait till the permitting process? Do we wait till we get the grant and no one will say no? That's where we are and.
Well, I think, and Liz and I were talking about this today, that development is a long process and it
Sure.
takes a long time. Where we are in applying for the money, we're not breaking ground, we're not committing to anything. We're just applying. We're just saying, we'd like to be in the game. Once we know what the state is saying to us about, well, we have this much for you, Plainfield, we like your project. we're still gonna have many, many, many steps before we get to accepting the money, like.
Human
like
nature's
6
never
months-
gonna say
6
no to
months-
money.
6 months on.
I know.
contracting.
I mean, come on,
But
come on.
the conditions for the money
Right.
are in negotiation, right? And that takes months, months and months before we come to what we've agreed to with the state. And there's a lot of way in to do.
Well, I'm hoping I die before this project happens. What's that?
Can you?
Who knows what might end, John,
Or like
honestly.
my house.
But I've got hands everywhere, so. Eli,
So just to pitch a couple of situations, we put in this grant for 9 million, not 10,
Whatever it is, yeah.
whatever it is.
round it up.
And 10, and we say 40 dwellings, and they come back and they say, you got it, you got all 10 million. Now build the 40 dwellings, and then we have a choice, and the select board will be forced to choose. Do we take it, and we are held to the standard of building 40 lots? Right. Or do we not? Right, that's one situation. Another situation is they say, we can only give you 7, right? Then we say, well, then we can only do 25 units, and they're like, 7 million for 25 units, that's not good enough, we're not gonna give you the project. Is that the negotiation? Right, cause if we say we need 9 million to make 40, but if we wanna do 20, we have to spend 7. Is that still gonna be, they're not gonna accept that, like?
What's
So-
that say, Walter?
How their ramp down clauses like that.
And then before,
Wait, was that one question?
it is one question,
Okay, so
yeah,
let's
please
answer
go
that
ahead,
question.
please.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing, like it's very common to get into the speculative what ifs at this point.
Right,
And it's not worth it. It's just gonna make things more confusing. I mean, you all, just to reflect back a little bit, you all are in a place where every community ends up when you talk about adding affordable housing to your community. That's where you are. Some people don't want it because of the density, the pollution, all the reasons are always the same. They always have been. Every appeal will list everything everybody doesn't like. And you're just at a place where there's different ethics around what you're trying to do. And unfortunately, this grant deadline came up too soon. This is not a normal grant deadline process. Normally, there is, under all the normal grants in the state, a published calendar of grant deadlines. And so, if you miss one, you're not ready, you just wait for the next one. That's not where you are. You're at a place where your community has gone through a traumatic disaster event. And it's taken a lot of toll on everyone. And the process you're going through is what communities do when they're trying to recover from a really difficult event like this. And it's just, everybody's not gonna end up in the same place. And it's hard, and it requires time. It often requires, a lot of different kinds of conversations, small groups, walking the land, seeing others. I mean, I could show you a video of a very nice, affordable community, single family community in Addison County. But no matter what, people are still gonna just have their feelings about it. That are, all the speculation in the world will not talk people out of their feelings. So, I just think that I can answer all your questions all night. I can tell you, would the state negotiate? Probably. What that would look like, I have no idea. You do end up economically at a place where your per land, like site costs, like your per site costs now are around 216,000. No one's gonna pay 216,000 for a piece of land in Plainfield. So you're subsidizing everybody. You're just doing it more or less based on the grant conditions. If you do fewer units at $7 million, I don't know where that break even is. It's gonna be somewhere. It's just gonna be whatever it is.
I think where we are is, do we take the leap and trust each other that we're gonna keep talking? Because we need to keep talking. We're not there yet. We don't know what we're getting. We know people have strong feelings. We know that there are real concerns. Like, we're not gonna stop talking to each other. You guys are an advisory. The select board's looking for guidance. I'm trying to find us money everywhere I can find us money. Right? We're doing everything we can do to recover from this. These aren't normal times. We were hit twice, right? And smacked pretty good the second time. And so what we're trying to do in the face of it is heroic. It's freaking heroic what we're trying to do, and not small. So it does require us to be, as I said, what I wrote, brave and trust. I mean, really trust each other to keep talking and to keep working on it. Because we all want the town to succeed and people to live here and thrive. So that's my whatever, but Kirsty.
I feel like I want to preface this by saying I really appreciate all the time and effort that you both have put into this. I do also want to note that it doesn't feel great to me when I hear people. I think people assume that when we are talking about reducing the lot sizes, that there are negative assumptions to the folks who want lower lot sizes, like I've been called NIMBY for lot numbers, yes. And I have been personally impacted by flooding in huge ways outside of Vermont. So I fully understand how long this takes. My childhood home was demolished and unlivable for like 6 years in New Jersey, so I get it. At the same time, I do not have trust in this group based on interactions that happened over the past few days. I personally feel like there are efforts to not include public comment. There are efforts to not accurately reflect sentiments of every person on this committee. So I personally would love to be able to say I trust everyone, but I don't. And I am one of the only abutters that from the beginning was saying, I think more housing would be really great. I'd like to see this happen, but I want it done right. And so I think empathy for other folks who are going to be impacted by this in different ways is severely lacking.
Thank you. Thanks for your courage and saying that tonight, because that's.
Because anybody that asks critical questions is treated like they kick puppies and slap babies.
Yes.
Invariably, every
So
time.
I think it's really easy to categorize folks. And what I try to do is just remember you're my neighbors. I'm gonna see you in the co-op. I'm gonna see you downtown. We have to live together. Right? It doesn't serve any of us to do that. And I'm sorry that you're feeling like that. Yeah, it just sucks. It's hard. It's hard. It just sucks.
And we're all trying.
And it's emotion filled.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So where are we? So,
I do have some thoughts and questions and
thank you.
and, yeah, it's not easy. None of this is easy. So the density question, one of the questions I have about when we come up with the 40 unit or homes or whatever however we got to the 40. And I think the number was actually maybe 38 was lost in the flooding, but does that number, I'm assuming, includes the outlier properties like up the Brook Road that are also part of that number?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
not,
yeah.
so when we talk, so I just want to, that's a clarifying point for me, because when you take the Brook Road that has several houses into consideration, that is not duplicating what we lost in the village, because that's outside of the village. So I think that that's unfair characterization, you know what I'm saying? That word. And so I just wanted to make sure that I understood that was true.
Yep.
And I'm concerned that, we apply for the grant. we get the grant and we move forward just because it's like the thing to do regardless of what maybe common sense might or might not say, just because, yes, we're human and we're like, oh, free? And because we've put a lot of, I mean, we've had a lot of recognition outside of Plainfield about this project, and I think that that's really intoxicating. And I think that that can also drive us to make decisions almost like, oh my God, we can't go back now because we have all this expectation that we're going to do this great thing. So I'm concerned about those things. And we as a team and a town must consider the other potential of projects that are happening. We can't pretend Goddard isn't like doing some stuff, that they didn't buy the old hotel and are doing some things, and that there aren't houses that are abandoned that we could do some things with. I think to be like completely focused in on this grant as for our charge, not yours, because you have all the work that you can do with the grant. But I think it's our work to consider the entire town, not just this one piece of this one idea. And then I'm concerned about this particular project with the green spaces that will technically be the town's to maintain and deal with. So those are just kind of like my bucket list of concerns that I can think of in this second.
This is that whatever we do here with this, there are going to be a number of things always going on for the next, like I said, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things that the reason to apply is because, and the reason for this project is because it's the most shovel ready. It's the most applicable, right, for this. Is it the only thing we can do for housing? No.
Right.
It is not.
But my concern, if we do this and we, all these other things, it's going to change the complete fabric of our community.
I think our fabric has changed anyway because of what happened to us.
Well, of course it has, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about a totally different type of change, not just trauma.
Well, say more about that.
So
How
I'm
do you think it's, tell me what you see.
increasing our population a lot more than just replacing the lost population. I just see if this project goes through, if the Goddard stuff goes through, if you know, there's projects that are happening and that can, like, it's all happening at the same time. So it's not like normal natural growth. This is like, let's just like throw everything at it and we'll just deal with the consequences later.
I do think one of the things that we're looking at, investigating right now is a municipal planning grant. So that we can create a plan for how to sequence the projects and what, you know, I heard people the other night say, well, what about this project, that project, the other? Yes, those things have to be done. And we do need a good plan. And I don't believe that the select board at this point has done any work to organize its thinking around those projects. So, you know, I'm looking at, can we get a municipal planning grant so we can get some help, really getting our arms around what's coming, how much money we're going to need for everything. We're not there.
Yeah.
We've been very reactive to whatever has come our way, but necessarily so.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Because the floods hit.
Sure.
So we're all over FEMA PA. We had to do that. We're all over the federal highway money. We're all over money for the Great Works Study. Whatever presented, we reacted to and applied for.
Yeah.
And this is one of those.
Yeah.
I hope that we can get to a place where we are more proactive.
Yeah.
And thoughtful, but we are not there. And I don't know that the board is yet moving itself to that place. It would be my recommendation they do that and that we look at getting some help to do it. Because I agree, I think there's a lot that's gonna go on and we need to be organized and thoughtful.
We do. And one of the things when I think about developing this particular piece of property, when we know there'll be housing available, or I shouldn't say we know, we don't know anything. Let's be honest, but there's the potential for housing at Goddard, which is an already established, created structures. So you're not like changing the character of an area of our town unnecessarily. It's already disturbed,
yeah.
so to speak. Same with the hotel and maybe the abandoned houses around town are already like disturbed our property, our land. So I would rather personally put my time, energy, and money into stuff that isn't creating something brand new unnecessarily. And so that's a bigger concern. That's not what you're asking, but I haven't had an opportunity to fully express that piece of it.
Yep.
And that is actually, I think, while I'm speaking out loud for the first time about that, I think that's the piece that really is upset. I'm sorry.
No,
It just, I don't know. It's like, why break something when we have stuff that already could maybe fulfill the needs that we have? I guess that's where I'm
yeah.
sitting.
Josh?
So I just wanna like ask you all, like Liz, Donnie, etc. Like, you like, are you gonna move into the hotel when they revitalize it?
Why would I? I have a home.
Right.
So why are you asking me that? You're sitting, yes, go
So-
on.
Like, we talk about housing, right? And that's the objective. Like, housing, like, you cannot just say like all housing is equivalent, right?
I'm not.
Right. We need to kind of say like, this is programmatically different than like people who don't own a home versus simply housing. You know, and that's like, I think that's the benefit and good thing about this project. Right? Whereas like, you know, if we just lean into like creating a situation where the housing is, you know, your housing, you're at the whim of your landlord. You know, if Tammy rented me her house, same house, didn't change. We're very good.
Wonderful. I'll keep that
I
in
would pay
mind.
more taxes because it's rented. You know, because it's not homesteaded. And, you know, there's these little things that like build up over time. And like that is why not having access to like this like permanent what is mine is really important.
No, I actually, Josh, I do agree. And I think we talked about that at one other meeting, that home ownership is very important. And I do understand that, but I also am very concerned about what we're doing here is with the, just this big of a project on the outskirts of town, really. And I get it. I do. Home ownership is important, and I'm not belittling that at all.
Walker?
Walker?
You got it.
And Lauren's had her hand up for a while too. I don't know if she's in the queue, but.
You wanna talk first, Lauren?
Well, Lauren, do you want to go?
Yeah, I'd just like to say regarding the comments about trust and communication, as the person who's been kind of chairing the communications effort for this, I feel that we've done a lot to try to be as transparent as possible. I don't know many projects that have published, 20 pages of frequently asked questions, albeit they have not been as updated as we had hoped because we've been so busy trying to actually submit the grant and get ready for that. But, in terms of people casting aspersions, I mean, there have been people that have said that like, this is a scam, or that somehow insinuating that, members of this committee are going to gain something from this project personally. And, I just feel like I need to go on the record and say that I find that really, really offensive. The same way that Kirsty was saying, she finds certain things offensive. I just need to go on the record and say that I have literally spent probably, between everybody on the communications committee, probably more than 100 hours working on answers to questions about this project that, they're legitimate questions and we need to research them. And we have done that due diligence. And if people have not shown up to these EVEAC meetings that are public and that are recorded and that have public minutes, that's their problem. I mean, I'm not going to say people have a responsibility to do their own due diligence on this. And I have spent hours, literally hours, responding to people's questions one-on-one about this project. So I just want to go on the record as saying that I respect people's questions. I feel like I've engaged in civil discourse with people, but I don't want to be accused of not being transparent because I feel like we've been as transparent as possible.
Thank you, Lauren. All right, let's not go down a rabbit hole on this. Yeah, so Walker, yeah, you did.
As someone I'm a recent homeowner and, was affected by 2023 flooding and 2024 flooding. And live on Hudson, and like Eli, who was in the same neighborhood, we are affected by the decimation of our downtown village. We live in it every day. And so from that perspective, and also not having, my mom was a cook at Goddard. I basically grew up from age 4 to 15 in all of those buildings. I would never ever set foot in it. I'm sorry. I know that. Nor would I raise a kid in the hotel on the street. Nor would I necessarily want to demo one of these buildings that are in the floodplain right here. Then we have it, or build a new one. I mean, that's an option that legally the town could do it. The town has been exploring it. And I would like to not have to rent and throw my money away for the remaining 20 years of my adult job life. So in order to stay in Plainfield, the options for people are to either stay in the village in this plan, at the moment, take a FEMA buyout, build possibly, or find one of the 1 or 2 houses that pop up in the Plainfield area every once in a while that are in the affordability range. That's it. That's the options for a lot of the community that was directly impacted by the flood, which is part of the task of this committee to address. So there is going to be other options down the road. There's going to be housing for rent at Goddard. Potentially, there's going to be 5 units in the East Montpelier zip code that are built on the outskirts of the Goddard, Plainfield, East Montpelier town. Potentially, we can get the landlord who owns all of the abandoned buildings to relent on his stubbornness and allow the town to demo the buildings and use chip funding to build, at least get the lots buildable. There's a lot of perhapses in all of the alternatives to this plan. None of those perhapses include an option that's viable for any of the people that lost the homes they own in the flood, or even the homes they rented. So I want this committee to also work to maintain in their minds that reactive state that we are in, not that we want to be. At the same time, I grew up in Cabot on a wonderful, at the end of the road on like 100 acres, and I know what it's like to be in a really truly rural area and the beauty of it. And what happens when there's encroachment. And I understand, I served on a committee with Rose, like, I know she's a thoughtful person. We went through some hard numbers on the co-op relocation together. We made some really hard decisions and we got a lot of pushback from the community, so I know that she's not somebody who is ever gonna use her words lightly or not consider a lot of options. I take her suggestions and everybody else's suggestions and thoughts in this seriously. But what I want you to also maintain in your consciousness, when you think about your own preferences of what is legitimate and illegitimate for housing in Plainfield, is what actually happened to Plainfield and what is currently happening to everybody who is still kind of eking out an existence in and around that neighborhood. Me included, but not, it's not just me, it's all the people who are living in Barry in apartments and in Marshall in apartments and in other states even. And who would like to live in Plainfield. That's my.
Thank you.
So-
Eli, did you have your hand up?
I do, but if you.
No, go for both members, come on.
Yeah, yeah, it's so emotional.
Sorry, I'm emotional about it.
No.
It brings out the most.
I wanna be emotional. Yeah, I think I've heard a lot of times from folks who are abutters specifically that you don't want your neighborhood to change the way that we are suggesting. And my neighborhood changed, right? I live on Route 2 now and it sucks. I hate that my windows are right on the road and I hate that the cars drive by and my partner doesn't want to stay over because it's so loud, right? It blows. That's not a reason to do what was done to me to you, right? I don't want to do that. That's not. I just wanted to say that out loud because every time you say that, that's my emotional reaction, right? Yeah.
Nor do I.
I think something that's interesting is that the plan that we have now, which is the best plan that we have for this grant, was come up with in a, what did we call it, there were significant contributions. And it was not in the context that we have now. We created this plan while we were trying to get it so it would fund itself. So that was the like constraint that made it the number of lots and shape that it is, right? So putting it forward as the best plan for this grant, I don't think that's accurate, right? But putting it forward as the best plan that we can come up with for this grant in this time frame, I think is accurate. I'm open to talking about that. Right? And I think that our options right now are trying to get this on the table and trying to work harder to get qualifiers that we like for it to be on the table. Or not putting it on the table at all. And that feels, I mean, it would bum me out because I've invested myself in this, but it would also bum me out for the town, maybe in the same way that people are scared for the town. Maybe, I don't know if it scares me in the same way. I'm 29, I don't know. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you.
Go ahead.
No, I was just giving some love.
I just want to say, and this is a general comment, not totally specifically to the conversation we're having, that the conversations we have with our friends and neighbors about this issue, this is all anecdotal. And whether those conversations are positive or negative to this, I think it's a mistake to assume that that's how the community feels. I think we don't really know how the community feels. We have very little to judge on. And that's just a caution, no matter what you're hearing from your neighbors, whether it's positive, we think this is the greatest thing, I hear that. And whether you hear, this is crazy, this is too much. I just don't want to, I don't want to assume how the community feels.
Well, I think where we come back to is that this is ultimately a decision the select board makes. They're elected by the community. And we give them your best thinking and let them make the decision on the behalf of the town. But the town has the opportunity to show up on the public hearing and say their piece and let the select board know what they feel. All of that becomes part of the grant application, public record. Right, so I do think that the change we're considering in the verbiage in this gives us some really nice flexibility, again, to come back to it. And if we can recommend it to the select board with that change, understanding that this group's charge is not finished with this piece of work, right? You guys are doing this one thing right now, but you still have work in front of you to address what all of you are saying to each other. And so, you know, I want to just see if we can't get to a place where we could use that verbiage and approve moving this forward so that we can get this grant application in, at least take that step, and then be able to take a breath and figure out what the next steps need to be.
So,
Kirsty's hand is up.
I have two things. First, I think we need to start talking about numbers so that we can move forward. But I also want to acknowledge that I don't know if anyone else in this room has lived through flooding and then the rebuilding. I have. And the community, actually two separate communities in New Jersey that I grew up in both, they drastically changed and they're different towns. My father's, the town I grew up in, it's now no longer a community of small families who are, you know, living peacefully amongst one another. The fabric of the community changed. A lot more people moved to the town. It just feels very different. And my heart would be broken if I had to live through that again. In the first home that I owned myself. And while I would love to have neighbors that I can tell care about the community so much, I don't want that to be at the expense of the folks who are already living there, along the same lines of what you were saying. So I think the language that Walter was suggesting, I forget what it was already, but it's here, we've got it. I think that's one step, and I do think lowering the number of lots, or lowering the 40 number of units, whatever we were saying, I would use that to move forward.
Sure, you would need it to be less than 40 units.
Yes.
Tammy, go ahead.
Yeah, so how many renters, because I mean, the points that were made today were identified that we have houses, it's not all in the village, there's Upbrook Road and so on. And then there's some houses that had multiple units. So exactly, I guess, how many renters are we talking about? Because you're trying to replace renters, which, you know, Josh made a point, there's people that want to own homes, there's people that want to rent. But on the money side, I can tell you that, you know, renting is a step, and some people financially need to rent because they're looking for, I always call it the all-inclusive vacation. Because they're renting, and you know, if your refrigerator dies, you call and make your landlord a bad day. And that's life, right? But some people need that, believe it or not. People that are, you had pointed out, are moving, you know, maybe they're not in a location. So having renting isn't a bad thing. And I don't think that, you know, we had a sizable amount of renters in our town. And so are we being unrealistic to say that we're gonna convert all those renters into buyers? Is it only because we're giving lots away? I don't know, but maybe it is realistic to say if we lowered the lots and let Goddard do the renting, that we do supply our community with what they needed.
Sure.
At one of our previous meetings, when you were speaking, the question was asked, what flexibility once we have committed do we have, and you really didn't know at that point, what, if we commit to 40 units and they say, hey, here's all your money, what flexibility do we have to say less or more?
Units or
Yeah.
lots?
Units. Units, that's what we're talking about.
It's gonna-
How is there any, or are we locked into that and pending the negotiation, of course?
It's not locked in, it's just a challenge to go back and reduce it. It just because what I said before. When you write a grant application, there's a case statement and you have a rationale for what you're presenting. Your rationale is that you've lost, what is it, $14 million from your tax base? And you've lost all of this
Yeah.
homes, and you've lost revenue, you've lost possibly students in your school. So you're telling the state, these are our cumulative losses. Because this is disaster. The impact of the disaster were these losses. And you also have not lives lost, but human losses. As you've heard tonight, and which is also just kind of part of the documentation of the grant, is talking about the psychological impact of the community is very under discussed. It's not under documented. So that's the case statement you're making. And you're saying, we're gonna replace our $14 million in revenue, we're gonna replace our wastewater revenue, we're gonna replace our families, we're gonna replace our homes. And so then to go back to them and say, well, actually, we don't need all that revenue. We don't, it's just kind of like, there's some skepticism if you showed up and said that, because you're just kind of unwinding the strong case you made for the money.
Yeah.
So in an effort to bring this home, if it's at all possible. I'm hearing that what we want to do with the question that you'd leave us with, Karen, is strike the word lots. And instead of reading, we are seeking consensus on the number of lots and housing units and description of lot sales and program discussion, we are seeking consensus on the number of housing units.
As the deliverable.
That's the edit to the question that you're asking us, and I'm asking the group and everybody if that's our pleasure.
And just the point of clarification to Liz and Karen, there's no downside to this that you perceive,
No.
right?
Okay,
Can you say that one more time?
yes. I'll read it to you both ways, Christie. The original question that Karen and Liz asked us to answer reads, we are seeking consensus on the number of lots and housing units and the description of the lot sales program after discussion. We are going to strike the word lots. So therefore it just reads, we are seeking consensus on the number of housing units, we strike the word and too, sorry. Are we ready to vote on this, or do we need more discussion?
You allowed to put any conditions into it? Like something we want the select board to do, or do we have to vote it as the wording is here?
I think what you can do, what I would encourage you to do, is after we finish this item, we would take one vote to recommend to go forward to the board or not. And if you have conditions or concerns that you'd like to add to that recommendation, I think you're well within your charge to do that. And Peter, when he was here, wanted to know the yes, the whys and the why nots.
Yeah.
So I would say to you as a group, if you vote, yes, let's go forward, and there are some concerns or conditions we'd like to communicate as a group, I think you should do that. I think that's what the board's looking for.
Can I ask questions then, before we go into this? And some of these are kind of general knowledge that I just need to make sure what I've heard consistently stays consistently. I want to understand with the grant submission, there appeared to be, based on the documents, there were two different, dates that you could submit for the grant. There was the one that we're following right now, and then there was a second submission that was available. If we chose, for whatever reasons, that we needed more discussion about this, and we've got the date of the 9/25 or 9/30, are we able at all to swing into the one that has later dates? No, we have to
No.
stay in our stream,
Yes,
so to speak. Am I correct that, I read somewhere, that if the grant was under, I don't know how to get it, under 20 million, something like that, is there something in there that it does not have to go to public vote, that the select board in this case would have the only ones that would, so in other words, if the grant was finalized and approved and it came back, the only one that could say yes to that, to formally move it forward, would be the select board. It would not be a vote at all on the, after we've got the grant approval on specifically that grant. Does that make sense?
I'm not aware of any grant regulations that relate at all to whether your town takes a vote or not.
Okay.
We're back to on the bond though.
Yeah.
I got it on the bond, but I'm asking, because I think there's concern, from what I'm hearing everything here, there's concern on clarifying the stop process. What is it? So in other words, we get awarded the money. Okay, so what are we allowed or not allowed to do to go forward? So I want to know, at that point, do we have the option of calling for a vote on what we just received? I know we're gonna have to look at it anyway,
I
but
think this is a conversation you want to have with the select. board.
Yeah, and I'll just,
Exactly.
and I will say that if you went to a public vote
yeah,
and the town said no.
yeah.
It's unlikely the town will get another grant for many, many years. There's just it sends a signal to the state.
So you're basically saying we should stop it now if we're gonna stop it.
Well, it's this, I mean, the select board could decide on that, but it's just kind of like. The town just looks at that like, well, then why'd you do all this work? Why didn't you do the vote before, or?
I'd
It's
like to
just
know something here.
Yeah, it's just an
Because-
odd,
because-
it's not something that really
Here's-
it's not anything I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
I want to come at this a different way. Here's what I think could happen.
Okay.
This group is advisory.
Right.
To the select board.
Right.
This group can come back to the select board and say, we would like to participate in the process of this, and this, when the grant, if and when the grant is approved. We have some concerns around, we'd like to work on the following items to be prepared for when and if we get money. Like, so your work's not gonna stop. You should be thinking, what is it we would like to prepare to be ready to have a conversation with the select board about, the town about, as an advisory group to the board, right? So what goes beyond this grant in terms of your next steps as your work? Marion?
I do think, I think Peter Youngbear made a really good point at a select board meeting, one or two meetings ago, where he said, if we're gonna have a vote, the guidance the select board has gotten is to make it on something substantive. That just the straw poll vote, VLCT said, don't do that, it causes all kinds of problems. And I really appreciate how you articulated that, and I do think we are teeing ourselves up with this grant proposal to borrow $600,000 to buy the land if the grant is funded. If the grant's not funded, it doesn't seem worth holding a vote on borrowing money because it's premature. But if we are to find out in December, early December, that we get this grant, essentially we're committing to, if we commit to do the project, we're committing to buy the land, sort of, and that means we have to borrow the money to do that. And that would be the situation where anytime we borrow money for more than 12 months, which it's very likely in the circumstance that would be the case, it has to go for a public vote, and that can be via town meeting or via Australian ballot. Those are the two options. And so I would think there's a lot of ifs that lead to that. A recommendation, which I think the select board is already contemplating, to be frank, is that there would be a town vote associated with that money, borrowing that money, if we get the grant.
I almost think it has to, I don't know, I would almost think, I hear what you're saying, But I'm just wondering, it has to go a little bit further and say, not only is that the loan and the grant is, do we want this? Do we want the East Village expansion, knowing all the stuff that we know?
I think it's sort of by proxy, that's the implicit question, I would say, but I do think from a legal standpoint, the vote language is gonna have to be, shall the voters approve the borrowing of this money?
Right, I get
Yeah.
that.
The same as creating a reserve fund
Right,
was a test
I
for.
say, yeah, I
He
got
said,
them there.
he said that they were contemplating another vote that happens in November 4th. I have a little bit of apprehension about recommending that, because I think to go through all the trouble of that vote, which is I just think that it creates this,
No additional cost for
to have that authorization before we know whether we're getting the grant and the project moving forward. I don't know. I mean, I guess we could
It's
debate the
the
merits.
words, Paul, no matter.
Sure, but I guess in terms of recommendation, I question the merits of that personally.
At
Yeah,
any rate.
to
Bring
vote
us back.
before we know if we have the grant, we are recognizing our worst fears and our best hopes.
Yeah.
And reality is that might fall somewhere, we don't know what we're accepting or rejecting.
Yeah.
So,
But one has to go first,
I'm sorry, Tammy.
has to go first.
I would vote for the grant, though, just sequentially, it seems more logical to me.
Assuming that we're going to accept it and not put ourselves in a position where we're rejecting it and then not being offered grants in the future.
Yes.
If that happens, that's a choice that if we got the grant and we had a vote and we declined it, 10 people will get up and say, we'll never get another grant. That's the choice of this community. Then the community makes that choice. And they'll make the choice in the full knowledge that if we turn this down, forget it for the next 10 years, probably.
Then you get your community, then you can always withdraw the grant application if we don't get the loan. So it seems like if we don't wanna put ourselves in a situation, we were potentially concerned with the grants, that you would do the loan first. Just a thought.
That's how I understood it too.
I'm gonna say this to you guys. The select board has asked me to prepare this grant. We have hired Liz, we have put our efforts into this. This is what they've asked us to do. I report to the select. I'm doing this work. They're looking for your recommendation one way or another. They will do what they do,
That's for sure.
right?
point.
So
We're jumping ahead to the question of whether and we haven't finished this. I just want to point that out.
So with the change of the language from lots
To units.
to units. Ask the question, Don.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
So the question we're dealing with now, we are seeking consensus on the number of housing units and the description of lot sales program after discussion. So a yes vote.
Yeah, can
Is-
I am so sorry. This is Kim. I'm back on my phone. I don't know if this was clarified. I would understand that if we switch the language, that implied in that is that there's a minimum. But is there any implication that that's a maximum?
I don't think so.
Doesn't seem so.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
As long as you keep the 70%, if you're saying 70% are gonna be LMI, it's 70% of whatever you.
It's 70% of 40. If we build 45, but those additional 5 are not 70% LMI, that's fine, right?
Increase your LMI requirement.
Yeah,
Mhm.
70% of the units.
I know, but in terms of the deliverables, like, let's say, for example, we say 40 housing units and 45 get built up there. It's not like 3 of those 5 had to be,
Well, it kind of is, cause the state told HUD that disaster recovery funding
Mhm.
would achieve 70% of the units across the state at LMI. So the advice is each project should deliver that. So no, you're not 100% tied into that.
Right.
It's just
But
like,
you kind of are.
But you kind of.
what if you did 50? You know, where's the limit? Where's that number gonna stop, you know? So, right, if you did 45, you might be at 68%, that's fine. Right, but then how are you gonna stop someone from coming along and building
Somebody comes
a lot
along,
more units.
buys the land and wants to build
A
a
fourplex.
fourplex, which is an approved use in Plainfield zoning, like they
Right,
just
but
file the
just-
paperwork. Yeah.
Right, but you just lowered your ratio that you're delivering to the state. So you
Okay.
have to figure out a mechanism.
So we have to
roll
count,
for
we have to
that.
count them all within period.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, didn't understand that.
I'm just a little confused because I don't read this question as yes or no.
It's not, it's just that we have come to consensus about changing the language.
Yes.
Yes?
So, so there is not a vote
There
that's
is not.
required.
Say it again, Walker.
Now we're talking about the number of units, correct?
Yes.
So,
Can I backtrack for this one second?
Yeah.
To make sure I have this right. So if we're saying, the number of housing users. I'm tired.
I know, me too.
We're seeking consensus on the number of housing units, maybe 40 as a deliverable. Is that, so that's the cap? It would have to be 40 delivered, or are we saying that we can circumvent that and 40 is the minimum, but we can do more?
I think we need to be 40
I think we're saying 40
as our commitment to.
as the commitment,
The state as it.
so that we can deliver the 28 affordable.
So it's not up to 40, it's not 40 or more, it's just 40.
Right now, it's 40.
Yeah,
Right
okay,
now.
thank you.
Yeah,
And we can't word it any differently, and it has to be very,
specific.
Well, we lost 20 with Cleveland, and we're saying 40, and that's a narrative that's easy to explain to a state that's in.
It's easier to go back and negotiate up.
So,
and are we leaving in this thing about and the description of the lot sales program after discussion, or is that coming out?
I think the lot sales discussion. What do we need to say about that? Right now, we've already. The question that will need discussion when we know how much money is whether or not the remaining LMI homes get grants. If there's a revolving loan fund, like that's a program. This is a piece of work that this group can work on, which would be if we have a revolving loan fund, how would that get used? If we have enough funds to grant those LMI lots, that we would do that, but that's program work that you now have kind of, if it's 40 units we're going for, and you have this structure, you can do your work to say, these are the options
Right.
of how we might structure the program. for
So
sales.
knowing that, I'm not comfortable leaving the and piece in, because I think that need. Oh, I understand that, but it says, and the description of the lot sales.
So
program.
we didn't reach a consensus tonight. What I would say about it is that we reached consensus on housing units,
That's why I would like.
right? So
I
we
feel
could take the
comfortable.
rest of that out and we would, that the description, the ultimate description of the sales program is still to be written.
Yeah.
Ultimately, and that will describe something, but I think we will say that this is.
I mean, I think the grant does have to address,
Why do they care?
This is a grant for infrastructure, not land sales.
because they want to make sure that your deliverable has a rational, logical
Okay.
process behind it. So I think you can say the town will use consultants and intermediaries for lot sales.
Yeah.
Oh,
you
that's
know.
great.
But
If that's
that's
the
what I
way
was
to
gonna
get
say,
out of
didn't we
it,
talk, I mean,
Yeah,
your advice was for us
Yeah.
to put out RFPs for realtors.
Yeah.
Does that not take care of the?
Yeah,
Uh,
and
of-
and if there is a program that the town comes up with.
So maybe we
to
did
do
reach
it.
consensus on it.
That's a future thing. That's not tonight.
Thank
The
God.
grant doesn't care about the revolving loan. That's
Right.
your money, do it.
I would
Well-
still just like to leave it at the whatever, housing, whatever. And I don't want the other side. I would prefer, my preference would leave that out at this time, but I think the majority of that.
Well, I think that's what they said.
Okay, Vicky, so I'm not clear what you just said.
I would still
Say-
like to delete out and the description of lot sales program.
I
after
crossed it
discussion.
off my.
Yeah, I know you did, but I'm not sure I got consensus.
So that it reads, we are seeking consensus on the number of housing units, period.
Yes.
Yeah,
Are
we got it.
everybody in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Full with clear?
Yes.
We got it.
Okay, great.
Great,
So that's the final one.
That's the
that's
final.
it.
Okay.
Awesome
Good
job.
job.
So now the final question is, as a whole, whether the group votes to recommend to the select board that they go forward on applying for this grant.
Okay, and I'll just remind us that there are 2 yes votes that were already cast
And Kim's back.
by, okay, well, Kim's back, but Rick had then is casted. So let's, Arian?
I vote yes.
I want to say yes. I really do.
Do you have conditions? Liz?
None that can be met. So I have to say no.
Okay,
Yes.
I think I would be in a better position to say yes. If there was a way that we could come up with some wording that could be included to say yes. If that makes sense. So right now mine's a no, but if there were some conditions that I could feel comfortable with, like, we recommend, as you said, advising the select board that maybe this should get public comment or whatever
so
that.
Vicky, can you say yes and add your comments?
I'm not sure I have them formulated in my mind right now.
I don't know what you don't have to right now, but I think when this group puts together its recommendation, so I don't know who's coordinating that, but somebody will.
I would just add that in the legislature, people vote with an explanation. It's not usual, but it happens. People say yes with explanation or no with explanation. And that vote is accepted. So I would think that we could do the same here.
I think that would be a good idea.
Okay, so I guess I feel strongly that public comment should be part of the discussion before the select board accepts the grant. Well, does it,
If it's given,
does it have to be, if it comes back and they approve it and we get the money, does it have to go back for public comment? No. I'm talking about later. So I would like to see something that says upon receiving the final approval grant. And if it isn't different, let's just start there. If it isn't different, that the select board does a vote, obtains public comments and a vote as to whether the town wishes to proceed. I'm just throwing this out.
So Vicky, I'm gonna recommend something.
Okay, thank you.
That I don't put you on the spot to say it tonight.
Yeah.
But what I would do is if you said yes with a condition or yes with an explanation, then provided the explanation to whomever on your committee is.
You send it to the 3 co-chairs and we'll
Just
figure
send it
out how
to
to
the
put it
chairs.
together.
So write it
Yeah.
up. So you can say yes with explanation tonight, and then you submit your explanation to the co-chairs.
That's how it's
via
done. I don't have to.
To
say
a
it
company.
There's no way it's done. We're making it up.
Right, well, okay, yes for the explanation,
Okay, would be good.
I think.
Good.
John?
I've got to say I'm representing the people that have been meeting about this outside of this committee, and I've got to say no until the density is lower.
Yeah, you know what?
That's my reason.
I gotta take my back.
It just, the fact that it's felt like we've been trying to increase the lots to make the money work just doesn't make sense to me or.
So
a
you're
lot of
not,
people.
you're not even with an explanation, you're just gonna say no.
Well, I mean, the explanation is that the density is too high.
Okay. Good. Eli?
I'm gonna say yes.
Kirsten?
I'm also. I'm a no. Unless the density is significantly lower, but I don't think it will.
That would be
And
all of mine, yes.
yeah, and I would want the public vote as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not a yes for the explanation, you're not gonna add your comments to this vote.
I think I don't understand. What is the difference between saying yes with an explanation?
Yes, move the grant forward, and this is what you'd like to see happen.
we'd like to
When?
say below this.
But if I say yes, it's just counted as a yes, and maybe they do what I recommend, but maybe they don't, right?
We're all
Is
advising.
that, then I have to do no.
You could also say no with an explanation.
If I can say no with an explanation, then, yeah,
Do that.
yes. to
Course.
that.
Let's keep it, Walker.
I need to come back.
Yes, can I have an explanation?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. 40 units is a lot of density and not ideal amount of density. But yes, considering all the variables in the wider town. And yes, because I've lived in those neighborhoods and it's good.
Got it. Lauren?
Yes.
Thank you. Kim, we already got your yes. Still a yes?
Still a yes, and I like the options that focusing on units opens up. I think that it might not to nitpick terms, but I think it may increase density but lower the number of lots. And I think that allows for preservation of the hill, deciding where units go in or where lots go, and that strengthens my feeling.
Thank you, Kim.
And I would like to change my vote, and the only reason I'm gonna change my vote is because I don't think I fully understand when you say yes and you put the condition there, that they don't have to do anything about the condition. So I need to say no with condition,
Okay,
just because I didn't understand the
so what it
context.
has, the yeses are Rick, Arian, Donnie, Eli, Walker, Lauren, and Kim. The no's are Liz, Vicky, John, Kirsty. Did I get that right? Very good. So the majority recommends, and you guys can put your document together for the select board.
Hey, we're gonna,
Can I ask just a technical?
yeah,
question?
go ahead.
So now that you have this, can we still put, because we voted no in conditions or yes in conditions or whatever, are the no people allowed to give conditions?
course.
Or, I don't know, I'm just asking, I don't know if I can tell you that.
Committee, Vicky.
We'll put together a document that recommends moving forward. It will also list whatever concerns people who voted no or yes with conditions said. So that there's a full picture for the
Yeah.
board.
That's great.
And also, I would say, a reminder that for those of you who wanted to see the full application, by Saturday, which is the 20th, Liz is going home to write that. I'm sorry to keep you this late. But it will be published on our website in full with all the attachments, everything for you detail people. By the 20th, soon as I have it, I've got Bob Fancher at the ready to put it up. And also public hearing on the 25th, so that's what's what.
I just want to say one thing real quick. Thank you for giving the space tonight. I know neither of you had to do that, and you were both very gracious, so I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
It's really important.
Yeah.
Really important.
So I promised 10 minutes of public comment.
Can we just have a couple of clarification things? So like, do we think we should sort of fold this into our report for the select board?
The edited version?
Like as edited, yes, thank you.
I think that would be really helpful because it really, I mean, it drove our whole conversation.
And it's a nice outline of the break thing. And are we comfortable saying what our votes were on those particular items to demonstrate some of the complexity of the issue? And that I saw the sense, at least this is my own sense, is that the biggest sticking point was the density housing units issue. It seemed
Yeah.
like there was significant consensus on all of the other points.
Think-
And public.
When-
think,
We all.
Aren't the votes gonna be
Yeah.
Kirsty's notes anyway? The votes are gonna be Kirsty's notes.
Yeah,
anyway, so
I just think,
go ahead and
yeah,
put them in there.
Yeah, I think, okay, so I
That's what
think.
we voted on, I mean, it's
To
just,
me it
we
seemed-
voted on the record.
To me, yeah, to me, it seems logical that we use this to frame it. I just want
Yeah.
to make sure that everybody
Absolutely.
else thought that was a good idea too.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Thank both of you. I mean, I've
Yeah.
learned so much tonight with your knowledge and thank you for spending the time. Thank you.
Is there any public comment?
Yes.
Never gotten here without you.
Yes,
Not
right.
still awake.
Nothing else.
Okay,
Right, some of these just.
I think we should adjourn. I really do.
Okay, I think we should too.
Are we not? when's our next meeting?
When is our next meeting?
So there was a proposal that we had said the next meeting when we were supposed to meet is would be on the 25th, which is the same evening as the public hearing. So the proposal was to cancel that meeting and just meet at our next regularly scheduled time. Is that, do we have a quick show of hands if that seems like a good idea?
Yeah.
Great.
And so we don't need, we don't need to meet again, you guys.
We'll figure it out.
Guys,
We'll
we'll
figure,
figure
we'll figure it out. I do think that we probably want to, if you have comments, please send them to the three of us. We'll synthesize the document and circulate it back around. I think it's fair to say that that should be outside of the open meeting because we need, and we need to do that this week.
Yeah,
And because like the select board wants this right away.
yeah.
And then, great, I think that's all of the. Yeah.
I just I want to just mention, I will not be here for what I believe is October 9th, so you know.
Okay, I would encourage, I think everybody should really try to come to the public hearing, just just to hear the commentary.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's important for all of us. Yeah.
Thank you.
I move we adjourn.
Yeah. So we're
We're
adjourned.
Thank you.